Next is roll call, please.
Thank you, Mayor. Alder Allen.
Present.
Mayor Radafrada.
Here.
Alder Gerhardt.
Here.
Alder Herbst is absent with excuse. Alder Jetzer.
Here.
Alder Maldonado.
Here.
Alder Strassman is absent with excuse. Alder Udell.
Here.
Alder Wheeler.
Here.
You have a quorum, Mayor.
Thank you. So next in our agenda is public appearances for non-agenda items and new appointments. And then do we have anyone from non-agenda items? No? Okay. So next we move to I want to open the public hearing for the council proposed amendment to the 2024-2033 capital improvement plan. So we have one person to register to speak. So I will ask the person to approach the microphone, say your name, address, and you have 3 minutes to speak. So the first person is Rose Cohen.
Drive. I'm here to speak in support of Alderman Jester's amendment to the capital improvement plan to paint bike lanes on Pembroke Drive and Osmondson. I live on Pembroke Drive, and after working with Mr. Brecklin and Lieutenant Hartwick, they did an all traffic solutions traffic analyst report, which I have here for you, the last week of September last year. And what this report says is that an average of 300 cars go down past my home on Pembroke Drive every day, that at least 10 of those cars a day are going about 40 miles per hour, and the fastest car during that time was clocked at 57 miles per hour. What the report doesn't include is the topographic and geographic info, because the road drops about 200 feet from Osmondson down to the park with no stop signs. There wasn't even speed limit signs before we did this report. And it's just not enough. If there's a small child playing out in front of my driveway, you can't even see that kid until you're about 20 feet away. And I'm here to ask you to be proactive in trying to keep our roads safe. There are scores of children that live on Pembroke Drive and play around that area on a daily basis, as well as lots of families taking walks. The traffic continues to increase with the development that is continuing to happen around our area. The new development on Seminole, I believe, is causing an increase in traffic as well. Sadly, we know that we've already had one pedestrian automobile death in this city this past year, a middle school principal, not but a mile from here. And I'm asking you to be proactive so that we can make the streets safer for children and families before something else terrible happens. So I'd love to turn in this report, and thank you for your time, and ask you to support Alder Jester's amendment to the capital improvement plan.
Thank you. Anyone else want to speak? No. So I'm going to close the public hearing for the CIP amendments. So next we move to the consent agenda. I need a motion to approve the
So
minutes.
moved.
Second.
Any question, comment, edit? No. All those in favor of approving the minutes, say aye.
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 Any opposed? The motion carries. So that's, yeah, so we approve. Okay. So next we move to the consent. Yeah, we approve the consent agenda, isn't it? Yes. Okay.
You're on to me.
Yeah, now we go into the administrator report. Okay, Chuck.
Good evening, everyone. A few updates for you all. There was a groundbreaking ceremony held at the Senior Center last week for the construction of the new patio that they are adding there. Work began the following day. Encourage you to take a look at the progress so far, at least give you an idea of the scope of that particular patio that will be ideally finished by August 31st. The sustainability plan that the city is beginning its work on has started. A survey has been added to the city's website, and we are also looking for volunteers for the planning team. There is an application on the city's website if you are interested in being considered to be a member of the planning team. Some engineering department staffing updates. A project engineer, Zach Lowry, began last week, and that has also now allowed Ross Collar to move into the transportation engineer role. The Scion Road project has resumed its construction after a delay for utility relocation, and the Lacey Road project continues with no notable update there. However, I do want to compliment our engineering and police departments for their continued efforts to mitigate issues regarding the additional traffic that's been using the roads within the South Stoner Prairie neighborhood. And then finally, the library will be closed for a portion of its day on Friday, this coming Friday, from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. Some plumbing repairs will necessitate shutting off water in the building while those repairs take place. Questions?
Any questions? No? Okay, thank you, Chad. So next we move to the commission and committees report. So first we're going to start with Plan Commission. Gabriela.
I'll start by moving to postpone CS 248222 to the September 26th council meeting.
Second.
Any questions, comment? No? Okay, so all those in favor of postponing to September 26th, say aye.
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 Nays, the motion carries.
Next, I'd like to move approval of ordinance 2023-011 requiring tree preservation plans to be included with preliminary plats by creating section 24-4G of Fitchburg Code of Ordinances as amended by Plan Commission.
Second.
Did CEDA approve?
I was absent the last time. You
Yes?
have to
Okay.
ask Joe.
Park Commission? Well, David's not here. Approve. RCC?
Yes, as amended by Plan Commission.
Okay. Okay, so, so we have a couple of people that they are planning to speak. So I want to be calling you. Remember, you have 3 minutes. Approach the microphone, say your name and address, 3 minutes, and we are going to keep track of the minutes, okay? Because we have a lot of people to talk, so we want everyone to speak. So I think we have first, we're going to go to online people. The first one is Chad Lawler from MABA. Chad, are you ready?
Yep, I'm ready.
Okay, go ahead.
So my name is Chad Lawler. I'm the Executive Director of the Madison Area Builders Association. We represent the builders and developers in the Madison area, primarily residential, but some commercial as well. The first thing I wanted to do, a little outside of the tree preservation, was to thank the mayor, administration, and the alders for their support for the Boys and Girls Club project and our grand opening that occurred about 10 days ago. So starting, thank you for that. To the tree preservation ordinance as it's currently drafted, we have conditional support from our members. We do believe that tree preservation is important. We do think that the current language is a little burdensome, and there was some jockeying back and forth as far as the size of the tree. It's our membership's suggestion to reduce the burdenness of the tree preservation plan as currently drafted would be to move to a more moderate size, somewhere in the 10 to 12 inch at the 4.5 feet diameter. We do understand the goal of this, and it is our members' goal as well to increase tree preservation to ensure that neighborhoods are, beautified by nature, and that's the reason many individuals live here. So we did present a letter just indicating our conditional support for the amended numbers of the 12 inches approximately at the diameter and other things going forward. But I did want to, again, thank you all for the time, and also say that I think this is something that our members agree on. I think there's some level of discussion that's occurred at different committees and commissions, and I think there's a middle ground that's more appropriate versus the current draft. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Okay, next, Phil's view. Phil, are you ready?
Good evening. I'd like to testify somewhat regarding this tree preservation resolution. I agree with Chad. I think the saving of trees, I think most of us have been very cognizant of the importance of that over the years. Obviously, there are some times it makes it very difficult to place homes and other buildings on property that might be very densely wooded. But I think as well, I think we need to also keep in mind the current tree planting requirements that we're all under. I'm currently developing Terravesa, and Smart Code requires trees every 30 feet versus the every 75 feet under Euclidean zoning. So this is a very dense neighborhood that Smart Code is designed for. So a 30-foot, every 30-foot length, there is a tree planted, which we do pay for all the trees. In fact, by the time everything's all said and done in Terravesa, I'm sure we'll be over $300,000 in fees relating to trees planted in the terraces. So I think that's, with Smart Code, I think it is one area to kind of keep in mind that this may not be quite as appropriate because of the density requirements that are part of that zoning. And also, and I'm sure as you've driven through different neighborhoods built over the last 25 years in Fitchburg, you'll see that as the nursery stock matures, the trees grow very quickly. And a lot of pride and ownership of homeowners in Fitchburg who planted a lot of trees. And I think I'm always really impressed with what these neighborhoods turn out to be. I've been fortunate enough to develop Swan Creek, Oak Meadow, Harlan Hills, Pine Ridge, now Terravesa. And I think that all of these neighborhoods really do provide great tree canopy throughout the neighborhood, not only with terrace trees that are required, but also the homeowners that are planting trees. As far as Terravesa specifically is concerned, we've probably had, I think, maybe 2 or 3 preliminary plats approved, and that would include the entire 250 acres. I'm not really sure where this ordinance falls within that with our preliminary plats that have already been approved. There was a very detailed plan for the northeast neighborhood in which part of our property was designated for environmental corridor. In the northernmost portion, it actually abuts what the Worth family gave/sold to the Oregon School District. I've told them that we will, when we get to that point, we will donate 5 acres of that environmental corridor to the school district so they can expand their forest lab that they've got. So I think that we're doing everything we can with that particular neighborhood. We are having a tree survey done right now by Bruce Allison, who has done work, a lot of work in the city in the past. I want to know exactly where these trees would be based on the current standards that you have of the, 6.5? I think 6.5 inches.
Phil, your 3 minutes are up.
Okay.
Thank you. Okay. So next, Terrell Brock. She wishes to register only in support of passing the modified tree preservation ordinance as revised by the Plan Commission. Okay. Dale LaValle wishes to register only in support of the amended ordinance passed by Plan Commission. Craig Rapp, he wishes to speak. Where is Craig?
He's not here yet. He's on his way.
Okay, so we're gonna hold to this. Linda, she wishes to speak in support of the amended tree preservation ordinance.
My name is Linda Brewer, and I live at 5733 Rosler Lane. And I'm here speaking for myself, and I'm also chair of the Tree Advisory Committee. And I want to say that each of us has supported the amended version of the tree preservation ordinance as it is. It keeps the most essential pieces, which is a 6-inch DBH and the original list of tree species, which is extremely important. I think right now all of us are very aware of the importance of trees in our neighborhoods, that it can cool our neighborhoods as much as 7 to 10 degrees and save has energy savings as much as 25%. So we know it's not only desirable, but it's essential. So I think the city should be very proud of the Tree City USA standing that we've had for so many years, and this ordinance will put us in a good position for the World Tree City ordinance, both the U.S. and the world at this point. The ordinance, I think, so what it does is it puts trees, established trees in the conversation when development is being planned. The intent of the way the city comprehensive plan is worded, it is 30% tree canopy is our goal, and we are dealing with tree ash, trees that we're losing because of the tree ash borer, and we are losing trees because of developments and upgrades. So what this ordinance does is tries to maintain the trees that we have established, not at the expense of development, but just making it part of the planning. So 6-inch DBH means a tree is well established and is doing well in that site. The diversity piece of the city comprehensive plan means diversity in age as well as species of trees. So we can't reach our canopy goals with just new plantings and heritage trees. So it's the DBH of 6 inches is very important, and the amended version was passed by all of the committees. We were there to give information and to answer any questions, and all of the committees, the Plan Commission, the RCC, CETA, and Parks Commission and Tree Advisory passed the amended version. So thank you all very much. Thank you for being here, and thank you for supporting this.
Thank you, Linda. So next, Sue Easterday.
Hello, Sue Easterday, 2731 Osmondson Road. Thanks for considering the ordinance tonight. I'm favoring the Plan Commission version of this ordinance. I'm chair of the Parks Commission, so for the last several years, I've followed the work. I haven't done the work, but followed the work of the Tree Advisory Committee, and they've worked very hard at trying to have something that makes us start at identifying trees so that they can be considered for preservation. This ordinance doesn't require anything to be preserved. And one of the important points made by one of our members at Parks Commission was, and he's a landscape architect, that by the time someone in his position sees the work, it's already stripped of all the trees if it's not required that they be shown. So he believed that showing them in advance helps create a better project because you know what you're starting with and you can see if there's something that you can work into a park or a little outlot or something that will enhance that new neighborhood. The 12-inch diameter, as suggested, and you'll see in your packet, there's a graph of the age of those trees, but for example, in my neighborhood, I measured a 12-inch bur oak or diameter, and that's about an 80 to 90-year-old tree. So, if you're not going to consider that a tree is 70 years old is worth thinking about, or 50 years old is worth thinking about, I think we can do that much. And so I would like to ask that you keep the 6-inch standard. Our alder, David Herbst on the Parks Commission, isn't here, and I know this counts for nothing, but I will say he stated out loud that he supports the Plan Commission ordinance, as was presented, and he voted aye, along with the rest of us, in July. So he supported it, and I hope all of you will too. Thank you.
Thank you, Susan. Next is Ann Sawyer. She wishes to register only in support. I support of the tree protection ordinance as approved by the tree advisory committee. So next is Diane Struck. Diane.
My name is Diane Streck. I live at 3099 Barrington Hills Court. I'm in full support of the ordinance as amended by the Plan Commission. Trees should be viewed as an asset, not an obstacle. From an environmental standpoint, they reduce temperature, they provide shade, they keep the soil cool and moist, and if they shade a building, they reduce energy consumption. Their roots improve soil retention and reduce runoff, thereby improving water quality. They are one of the most efficient carbon capture machines on the planet, and when they're cut down, they release the carbon. One 16-inch maple over a 10-year period intercepts 12,662 gallons of water, absorbs 3,642 pounds of carbon, and depending on where it's located, can save 845 kilowatts of energy. Fitchburg has invested and will be investing significant funds to develop a sustainability plan. Preserving trees is essential to the sustainability of Fitchburg. I thank the Tree Advisory Committee for their work. This has been a long time coming. I spoke with Ed Bartel 20 years ago about tree preservation in Fitchburg, but I think Fitchburg can do more. I'd like to see some species added to that list. For example, buckeye and ironwood. There's only one evergreen on the list, so I'd like you to view this as a starting point. This ordinance does not preserve trees, it just documents them. Just recently in our neighborhood, when an apartment complex was built, there was what I estimate to be at least a 150-year-old oak tree cut down needlessly. It was not in the way of construction, it was not in the way of anything that they were doing. It could easily have been worked around, and a tree preservation plan could have avoided that. I'd like to see the city include the entire city, not just construction. I've researched, and there are other communities in Wisconsin that have tree preservation ordinances, and they apply to everybody, not just new construction. I'm not suggesting that we don't cut down trees. I'm suggesting that we preserve them if possible. Trees have value, and that's the message Fitchburg should be conveying. My developer had it in the covenant, said that nothing over 2-inch diameter should be cut down without permission, and if it was cut down, it should be replaced. I encourage you to direct the staff and the Tree Advisory Committee to add trees to the list and to develop a tree preservation ordinance. Thank you.
Thank you. So next is Greg Rapp.
Hello. Apologize for the tardiness. My 3.5-year-old was not having it tonight. So I unfortunately missed some of the previous comments here, but I'll keep it brief. I think the Tree Advisory Committee has put a lot of work into developing what we think is a good entry point for this ordinance. I think it is essential that we get an idea of what trees are even there during these new construction projects, which is why I think this is the type of ordinance we need, so that we have more information going to the Plan Commission. More information is rarely a bad thing. I do think the DBH, the diameter of breast height discussion, is very important as well. A lot of the trees that we would like to preserve for the long haul of their life are going to be in that 6-inch, 6 to 12 inch range. So going for a ordinance that gives us more information on those middle-aged trees is going to be really, really positive and important. Sorry, a little frazzled. And finally, I think I'd like to thank the Tree Advisory Committee for all of the time and support they put into it. I think the votes coming out of the committees is very indicative of the support that this has had. We've had a lot of discussions in the past month, and then in the past couple of years about this, going back and forth. I think we've ended up at a place that hopefully you all will see fit to support today.
Thank you. Next is Nate Hoyt. He wishes to speak in opposition.
Good evening. Thank you for your time. I'm speaking in opposition to the current sort of draft. I am supportive of the general concept of ensuring that our preliminary plats do consider the retention of trees and the environment, and that they are thoughtful about what they do from a development perspective. I'm concerned that the current ordinance as drafted places a significant burden from a survey perspective that may not be appropriate sort of in all cases. I can see a number of situations where you could have larger plats. I think Phil mentioned sort of 250-acre kinds of plats where some of the land is not even intended for development, where you could have outlots or nature preserves, et cetera, and yet you could be requiring a tree-by-tree sort of survey of everything in there, despite the fact that no development is actually proposed, which then proposes a reasonable sort of burden. I think the intent is to be sure that the Plan Commission has enough information to be able to assess the environmental impact of what is proposed. And I might encourage the council to consider adding some flexibility on their own behalf or the Plan Commission's behalf to essentially say, this is the standard or such other material as may provide an effective assessment of the environmental conditions on the property. Because without that, I don't think you have the flexibility to be able to address the range of circumstances that may come before the Plan Commission or the council with a preliminary plat.
Okay, thank you. Next, Sue Faber. She wishes to only to register in support. I support the adoption of the ordinance as amended by Plan Commission. So next is Brenda Hofer. She wishes to. She's registered only to in support of the amended resolution as passes as a Plan Commission. Michelle Rierner, only registered in support. We need to support the tree ordinance as amended by Plan Commission. Rita Thomas, only registered in support of the amended resolution. Jerry Grothy, registered in support of the amended resolution by Plan Commission. Tom Wilwoski, registered in support of the amended resolution. Ray Blum, registered in support of the amended resolution by Plan Commission. And then we received a lot of email by people to support. I want to name them. So Jake Johnson also in support of the amended resolution. Sue Chapman, Judy Private, Jeannie Jansen in support. Sandra Hermes in support. Bruce Sweeney in support. Diane Trachel in support. Krista Smith in support. Peggy Jacobson in support. Anita Clark in support. Rita already. Peter Lundberg in support. David Rizzo in support. Mary Power in support, Stephen Jones in support, Christopher Saina in support, Ryan Jerry Bloom, already I mentioned them, Lisa West in support, and one second, I do not have the last name of this person. And Judy Stadler in support. So anyone else want to speak? Okay, so Gabriela, can you explain a little bit more of this, and then I open for council comment and question.
Yeah, definitely. So this, the work on this goes back to pre-2020. Actually, when I joined the Tree Advisory Committee in April 2020, there had already been discussion about this, and the committee went through a long process of working with staff and through different commissions through the years to kind of craft a proposal that was somewhat modest in nature, but as a starting point for tree preservation. The original, I think, intent was to create an ordinance that required the preservation of certain trees, but what this had morphed into is something that was more a planning tool, a tool to include trees on a preliminary plat, so that in those early planning conversations, trees would be part of the conversation, and it not just be a blank plat that you could put something anywhere, but maybe you'd make a different decision if the trees were on the plat. So that's the idea behind it. The preliminary plat is something that only happens a couple of times a year. The ordinance is not retroactive to plats that already exist. And there are a lot of limitations in terms of what it extends to, but it is meant as a starting point. And one of the reasons for the 6-inch diameter breast height, that really indicates sort of a middle-aged tree. And one of the things I learned in tree commission is that middle-aged trees are often the things that get cut down and that are sort of the biggest loss, because if we save that 200-year oak tree, it's really beautiful, but that does have a somewhat limited time left. But if you save the 80-year-old oak tree, that might have 200 years left. So those middle-aged trees can be quite valuable because they're so well established. They have such deep roots and provide so much value, but they have a lot of life left. So I think that 6-inch, it's kind of shocking to think that a 6-inch tree could be that old, but that is quite true. And so that's why the Plan Commission decided to amend it. They thought it was relatively reasonable that 6-inch and that the list of trees represented valuable trees that should be considered as part of the preliminary plat. That was the first commission that amended it, and then every commission after that passed it as amended by Planning Commission, and that language is in the referral sheet that gives the specific language, and that is what was recommended by the tree committee. I think that pretty much covers it. Happy to answer any questions that, to my knowledge, that anyone has, but I think that's a pretty good summary. Thanks.
We have Anna Healy here, our arborist. Anna, do you want to make any additional comment? Okay. Okay, I have now opened the question for council now. Okay. Jay.
Yeah, so it's not very often that council members get phone calls from members of other committees, but this one sure generated a bunch to me. When this ordinance was presented to the council in March, we were talking about 6-inch DBH. And then the ordinance disappeared, and then when it came back, it suddenly had an 18-inch DBH. And the Tree Advisory Commission, which has been working on this for at least 2 years, had no idea that this was changing. So I have an issue with the process about how this went about, because at the very minimum, prior to this ordinance being referred out, it should have gone back to Tree Advisory Commission so they could look at it before submitting it to council. That didn't happen, so I got phone calls from lots and lots of people. In the last week or so, the council has received a lot of emails from a lot of people. Now, I am not an arborist. I don't know anything about trees. But I know when I walk around and I look at what a 6-inch tree is, and I do have a tape measure, so I know how to use that. When I measure a 10-inch tree under the 18-inch standard that was proposed originally, those 10-inch trees wouldn't be included. And that just seems absurd to me because a lot of, I mean, I walked around and looked at a bunch of trees that exist in our current parks, and even ones that exist at places where I used to live. And I mean, an 18-inch tree, that's a big freaking tree. And if those are the only ones that we want to preserve that we want to attempt to preserve, that's leaving out a large part of the canopy that I think is important for us to preserve. Now, I do want to emphasize, and a couple of people who testified tonight brought this up. This ordinance isn't going to preserve a single tree. This ordinance will document what trees we have, but and it's encouraging a developer to present a tree preservation plan, but the plan may be we're not going to preserve any trees, we're just going to cut them all down. If the city in the future wants to get serious about preserving trees, then we're probably going to have to set aside some money in the budget to compensate developers as certain trees are preserved. That's a discussion for another day. This ordinance doesn't do that. But I do think this gives us a starting point where we can start to see what's out there and what may be getting cut down so that we can then plan for what we might want to do in terms of preservation. But right now, we have nothing. A developer comes in with a plat, whatever they want to, we are not really given much in the way of aerial photography or what types of trees are existing unless we specifically ask for it in specific plats, which we have done. But I think this gives us the opportunity to make it an automatic thing that will happen. So I came into this, I don't know if 6 inches is I'm sure that 6 inches is a better number than 18. I'm sure that 18 is wrong. Is the answer 12? Is it 10? Is it 6? I don't know. But the people who have been working on this for a long time think 6 is the right answer. And so because they know far more about this than I do, I'm willing to take their testimony and run with it and say, let's put this in place with a 6-inch DBH as has been amended, and let's see what information we get. And if it's an ordinance, if we don't like the results, if we hear there's all kinds of problems, we can always change it. But right now we've got nothing. So let's get this in place. Let's start getting some information, and I think this is the proper path.
Point of order, Mayor. Do we, if we wanted to make an amendment, we have to propose that, right? Okay, so I'll propose the ordinance as amended by Tree Commission, CETA, and Plan Commission.
Just as a point of order, my original motion was as amended.
Yeah,
that was as amended. Okay, perfect. Okay.
I just wanted to clarify.
Yeah. Do you have any comment?
Yeah, I mean, my comments are similar to Jay's in that I did get calls from members of the tree committee, and I'm a novice as well. And I mean, I think the big thing is just coming down to describing the age of trees at different sizes, and it just kind of makes sense to be able to reduce the size down to 6 inches just because of the age of trees in which we'll be protecting. And obviously all these people showed up here. The tree commission, like Jay said, has been working on this for a really long time, and in absence of my own extensive research, I trust the guidance that they've given, because these are clearly very dedicated people who've spent a lot of time investing in this. The other thing that struck me about the comments is many people were not necessarily knocking development. I'm not either, but just, stating that there is a balance here, and that balance is the benefits that trees, especially older trees, provide to the environment, and the amount of time that it takes to regrow a new tree versus keeping one that already exists.
Any other comment? Jim? Okay.
And I agree with Jay that I can't see any sanctions for anyone who would just clear cut the property as far as preserving trees or not. I guess my question would be, if a developer says, here's the plan, but we're going to cut the trees down anyway, would that affect the process in any way? Like if it went to plan commission and the developer wanted to cut down the trees, would they say, well, no, we would like you to reconsider, therefore causing more time? So, I mean, would it be just advisory, and along the process, this would have nothing to do with that process as far as someone holding up the process? I think that would be a concern.
That one is
what actually happens. I mean, we could say, yeah, nothing's going to happen, but we don't know.
I think it's a valid question, but I think something that we discussed, I was part of the tree committee for a year. I think something that was discussed that, is we have, a development coming with a couple of trees in the middle of the plat. We are not going to stop development because of that, but we are going to ask, okay, we know that there are so many trees there that they need to be cut, and maybe how we're going to replace them, you know what I mean? So that when we can have a conversation with the developer and determine, okay, what is your plan for landscaping, how you're going to replace those trees, you know what I mean? Maybe there are some trees that it can be saved, we are creative on how we allocate or, for example, is in the middle of a bike path or a sidewalk or path, can we go around the tree, so, but I don't think that this ordinance is going to stop development. Is what we want to know, I think, is when in the preliminary plat is determined, where are the trees in the plat, what is the plan, if they need to be cut, what is the plan, you know what I mean? What is the replacement? I think I agree with Jay that, we are missing the preservation part in this ordinance. That is something that maybe we can incorporate later. I would like to see if there will be a ratio, you know what I mean? Because I think that we need to, protect our trees that are part of our asset infrastructure. And I am fully support this ordinance, the way it was amended in plan, because, it took almost 2 years. People in the tree committee, I want to say thank you, ladies. I worked with you for a year, and you did your research, and this is like we mentioned, this is the first step, to move forward, and this is great for the city, to have a tree ordinance. Our comprehensive plan also say we need to create an ordinance tree, a tree ordinance. So it's there too, so we are not recreating, or we are doing something that is new. So I want to say thank you to all of you for your, dedication, your hours of work, advocacy, and also to staff, Anna, for many, many hours, and the rest of the staff here in the city, But I think this is something great for the city, first step, and then I want to assure that no one is against development here because we are doing that. On the contrary, I think the two things can work hand to hand together, so that's it. Any other comment?
Yeah, I don't think we have to talk about it right now, but I am and we can always make changes, but I am I'm intrigued by what one of the people who testified here about, if the area is not going to be developed, why should we just do a tree survey, in the area that we know that's not going to be developed, because that may cost, I don't know, some additional funding. But, I'm in support of it, but I would just like maybe we can look at some tweaks moving forward as this passes. So.
Oh, Bill. Oh, I didn't see the
So regarding what Jim just said, and this goes back to what Bill and Ned were saying, I'll just read line item 4 under section 24.4G. Says we're concerned about the size, species, and location of all desirable trees located within the area to be developed. Can we get clarification on what exactly we mean when we say the area to be developed? Is that like the entire plat, or is that just buildable lots and roads and trails and stuff?
I don't know, Anna or any of you. Do you know that?
I think as with any new ordinance, there'll be some feeling out as the process goes along. I think that, that could be potentially open to interpretation what area to be developed means, if that means the entire plat has to be surveyed or only the areas within the plat that are going to be developed. So I think that'll be something that staff will need to be aware of as the first plans become submitted.
Any other question? Oh, Jay.
So we may be able to fix this right now. So typically, I think when we look at a development proposal, we look at the preliminary plat. And so I think the language as it's written applies to the entire preliminary plat. But what does happen in the platting process is if there are things that are not going to be developed, they're often designated as outlots. Mm-hmm. And so what we could do is we could add add 2 words that says the develop area excluding outlots. So if you would be, if an amendment like that would be helpful to you, we could put that in, and that would take those undeveloped areas off the table. I think, I mean, ultimately, I think the city still wants to know what kind of trees we have, especially, we're still in the midst of this emerald ash borer thing. And I remember when I was the mayor when this first started, there was a proposal that came from the Parks Department to buy a wood chipper and basically go through the whole city and take every single ash tree out of the city. Now, fortunately, we didn't do that, and as time has gone on, we've found some ways to preserve a number of those trees. But I think it is helpful from a policy standpoint to understand what we have in our urban forest. Because right now, we know some things. We know it's been planted in the terraces, and we know about certain other trees. We know about some of the trees in the parks. We had, I'm sure the data is somewhere. We had hired an intern a long time ago that was supposed to be going through and doing an inventory of all the trees in the city parks. So some of that information is somewhere, I presume. But it's, I think from a policy standpoint, it's good to know what we have, even if it's in an area that a developer isn't going to be building. It's still good for us to know what's there. But if you feel that the cost of that is very high, ultimately some of that land gets dedicated as parkland, so then it becomes city property anyway. But we could say anything excluding outlots or property dedicated to the public.
Right.
Yes, Jim.
Yeah, I'm going to go back to what you said. I wouldn't feel comfortable doing any type of amendment right now. Mm-hmm. I think this is something that just could be considered because, like you said, a lot of work was spent on this. And if something else is going to be amended, I would rather it go through the tree advisory committee. Sure. And I think we have time, so I wouldn't feel comfortable doing an amendment right now.
Okay, any other comments, questions? Oh, Bill?
Yeah, I guess when we're talking about, area to be developed, I think we should probably say any land that will be disturbed, which may be outside of what's actually going to be developed, right? It's possible that heavy equipment could be driven through the area outside of a buildable lot, outside of an outlot. Is that correct? So, just to keep that in mind. But I think I agree with Jim that we should probably take what we have here because it's an excellent starting point. And if it needs tweaking, we can do that at a later time.
Okay, is everyone ready to vote? We are going to do roll call because it's important.
And we're voting on the amendment?
Yes.
Okay.
The amendment?
Well,
Oh, no, it's the amended, it's the full motion as
We're
amended.
voting
by
on the
Fran.
amended version.
yeah, amended version, yeah.
Thank you, Mayor. Alder Allen?
Absolutely, yes.
Alder Gerhart?
Aye.
Alder Herbst is absent. Alder Jetzer?
Aye.
Alder Maldonado?
Aye.
Alder Strassman is absent. Alder Udell?
Aye.
Alder Wheeler?
Aye.
Motion
Okay,
carried.
the motion carries, so, okay, congratulations. Okay, next we move to Board of Public Works. So, Bill.
Yeah, caught me off guard a little bit. I wasn't aware.
Because
that-
David's not here, so.
Right, yes. But I do see Tim as my backup here, so I don't feel too bad.
Okay.
So I will go ahead and move approval of Resolution R 11323, approving a contract with Pepper Construction for construction management services for the new police facility.
Public Works approve,
Public Works approved.
Finance Committee approve.
Yes.
Okay, what is this?
You don't have a
I
second.
didn't get a
Oh, the second, sorry. What second is?
Second.
Okay. Okay, Bill, can you explain what is this?
So this is for not the construction itself, but for the management of the construction. So we've got a company that's going to, take care of all the subcontractors, et cetera, to actually orchestrate the construction of the new police facility. Tim, do you want to augment that with anything?
What is his name? Okay, so.
Yeah.
Okay, so
Basically,
Tim is here, okay.
Yes, the Pepper construction will be along during the design process, providing value engineering and alternative methods to construction that the design team will come up with. So they'll also offer their opinion on maybe a better construction methodology that may be able to save the city some money during construction that the design team didn't think of. So just wanted to add that in there.
Okay, Jerry, do you want to make any additional comments? Since you are here? No, you can have to the microphone. You can say your name and who represent.
My name's Jared McDaniel, and I'm with Pepper Construction. So really, as we said, this is a CM advisory role. So, for pre-construction, we'll work with the design team, the city of Fitchburg. We'll generate several estimates throughout the process to make sure the project's aligning within the budget. We'll solicitate the bidding of the project to the general prime contractors. Once that contractor's selected, we would then oversee the construction and that general prime contractor kind of acting as the owner's agent on the project. So
Okay.
I'm happy to answer any questions if there are any.
Any questions, comments? Chad, do you want to add something?
I was just going to add that I had shared an email from Paul Woodard, the engineer from the city who is overseeing this project. Unfortunately, Paul was not able to be here tonight due to traveling internationally today. But he did provide an update in regards to what this contract is for. And I think that one thing that Paul asked that I clarify or be sure is clear is that the initial design as it results to this contract is about $100,000. For whatever reason, the building does not proceed, which I hope to be unlikely. The remaining portion of this contract would not be payable.
That's correct. The first part of the contract is $100,000. Balance would be for the supervision during construction.
Any comments? Question, Jay?
Yeah, I'm going to continue voting against anything having to do with this building at this time, especially now after getting the email from my colleague Jim that the projected cost is going to now not be $30 million, but be $44 million, which is an absurd amount. That is an absurd number to throw out to the voters and say, we're now going to build a $44 million building. So I think there needs to be some serious pencil sharpening, and I don't see, in what I saw originally in the thing that came out a few weeks ago where it was talking about LEED certification and whatnot, I didn't see anything in there that really impressed me, especially with the location, which is why that particular document said we had, we were getting 0 points for LEED certification based on the location, which is something I've griped about enough, and I'll probably gripe about some more. But regardless of that, I think the direction this is headed is going off the rails.
Joe?
Joe.
Yeah, I had a process question. So, I mean, I know in our CIP it's been 25 million, and then when we got on council, we amended in the CIP down to, it went up to 35, went down to 25. Now it's estimated at 30. I think in the CIP.
44.
Yeah. So I'm just wondering, at what point do we? I mean, the price keeps jumping up, right, from what it was 5 years ago. And I understand inflation. I understand increased cost of construction. But I'm also kind of searching the internet for other municipalities of similar size that have built stations, and none of them have even approached being close to this type of a price tag, even if you factor in inflation. So that really concerns me, and it also concerns me that it's sort of just moving along, and that all of a sudden we're at this number. I share Alder Allen's alarm at that price tag.
Can you explain when we're going to discuss this? This is not.
Gabrielle,
Oh, Gabriela, yeah.
Yeah, I'm curious because I'm reading through the email from Paul Woodard again, and he was talking about the process. And one of the things he noted in this email was that the construction documents and drawings won't start until after the second public meeting about the design, which would be February of 2024. So we wouldn't start any of those details until February 2024. And in between then, I guess we'll decide on the actual design. So I'm curious in terms of can I hear from Jared at Pepper Construction? I'm confused about, there's a lot of confusion for me about, we're in this early stage of this process. There's some concern about the budget already, or a lot of concern about the budget already, which is very much tied to the design. So when I'm talking about construction management, in my mind, that means that feels like something that's very far along in the process, where you're dealing with kind of the actual logistics of constructing something, which makes it seem like that's a pretty done deal in terms of design. I would imagine you wouldn't start thinking about the construction of something until the design is done. Maybe I'm wrong about that, but could you give some insight into why this type of service is needed at this point in the process when at the earliest we would be doing some final design in February of 2024?
So I don't necessarily think I follow those same dates. I've been in some of these meetings, and I was under the impression design was going forward here very soon, like August, with a schematic level design. The need for the service, I don't know who was mentioning it on the screen earlier, but where we would come in and provide value would be to kind of advise the owner on the type of building. For us to come in late in the game and say, a cast-in-place structure is not as cost-effective after design is already far along. The intent is for us to be hand-in-hand with the architecture team, working through concepts and advising them of cost-effective solutions prior to the design getting too far down the road. If you don't kind of advise early on, it's kind of said the cake is already baking, and it's kind of hard to change after the train has been already too far down the track. So The value here, I mean, again, the first part of the contract is really to provide supervision, kind of suggestions. You know, time of year is very important, so we're going to be also helping to push the schedule with the design team of when this would bid, when construction would start. You know, we would try to avoid winter conditions. If the design slides and you're coming out of the ground and you need to provide temporary utilities to heat for concrete, masonry, things like that, we'd be helping the design team to build a schedule to build this building kind of as cost effective as possible. So I don't know if I fully answered your question, but it's really in the pre-construction services is where we could see the most value, and for that to be effective, it needs to be applied early.
Jim.
I don't know if it's the time to actually do this, but as far as the building being the cost of the building, well, we got to remember that a police facility is what we're talking about, a purpose-built building. So we can't kind of like cut costs on evidence collection, you know, because you're going to have to find a place, you're going to have to store it. Doing with far as rules from the state, you got to store things for a long time. So like when you're talking about a homicide that may occur in a car, you got to keep that car until appeals are done. You have other things of the evidence room where we're talking guns, drugs, and cash, where that stuff has to be really secured correctly. It has to be property tagged correctly. So I get the costs that may be, people may say, oh, this is just outrageous. But you got to look at what we're actually doing here. And I'm one who want to cut costs. Chief knows how I feel about that. But when you're talking about bringing detainees into the police station, okay, you got to have the proper facilities in order to do that. We're talking holding cells. We're talking, we can't have our officers processing evidence and not have the proper fuming hoods and everything else like that. So, you know, the cost may be high, but this building is going to be built on the purpose of what it's designed to do, and that is to be a police facility. I mean, I understand you know, we could say we could cut corners, but we also got to look to the future. You know, we build buildings, you know, with Madison, you know, we try to cut corners and everything else like that, and you build it to, well, we don't need this much space, and the next thing you know, you're really overflowing, you know, with bodies and everything. And so it's a lot to consider. And I would just say we got to move this along a little bit further and actually get the things that on paper that's going to actually be needed before, you know, we just say, well, we could cut this, cut that. Because there's a lot that goes into the building that's just basically for a police facility.
What we need to discuss right now, what is in front of us, is approving this contract with Pepper Construction for the consulting and managing oversight of the process. Then we have another item in the agenda when Jim is going to do, we are going to talk about what it was discussed in the meeting that we had yesterday. And of course, this Common Council, we have the final say about how much and how big and what we want to see in that design, okay? So that one I want to be sure that, you know, this is going to come to us, okay? We have this advisory or ad hoc committee that is make recommendation to us, okay? But then this body is going to have the final say of how much we are going to feel, you know, comfortable. You know, I know that tonight we are approving the CIP and there is $35 million there as a budget, okay? And then if we need to expend more because, you know, the construction cost is going to be higher, those conversations are going to come back here, you know, because we will need to make an amendment to that budget, okay? So I want to be sure that here we are discussing this contract, and then we are going to have plenty more opportunity to discuss, you know, the cost, design, and what else? And options, you know what I mean, and the process. So that's it. This is what I want to look at this resolution right now.
I'd just like to add a couple of comments. Just from a historical perspective, the budget for this project was established, I think, in 2018 or 2019 through the CIP process that was approved by council at $35 million. Obviously, it was reduced to $25 million through a subsequent CIP process. And then, as the mayor has just mentioned, her proposed CIP budget restores that funding to $35 million that had previously been identified in 2018 or 2019. And I think, as the mayor has indicated, there will be a number of notable opportunities for both continued public input, council oversight, and council input into this project. I think everybody recognizes the significance of this project as it relates to relieving the space needs throughout City Hall, as well as the overall cost considerations as it relates to this project. And I think what we're looking at tonight here is it's important to note that we're really still trying to assemble the team to put together a true cost, a true design and an estimate for that cost. And really what we could use is obviously the ability to get that team put together to even actually present options to the council to consider.
Any questions? Oh, Bill and Gabriela? No, Gabriela. Okay.
So I guess I just wanted to share what my thinking is. After hearing a little bit of what Jared said, I guess it sounds like the construction management is an important part of the process. And based on the note from Paul Woodard that we got, it sounds like Pepper Construction's already been a part of those conversations. So I'm inclined to approve this just because they're already a part of that. They're obviously an important part of the process and we should pay them for their expertise. But I do share the concerns about the budget and about just the lack of understanding of the process. I think it's too bad that Paul Woodard couldn't be here tonight to talk us through this. And instead we just got kind of an email summary. So that being said, I'm inclined to pass this so that we can move forward. But I do think we should have just a discussion item at the next meeting that Paul Woodard is able to come so we can talk about this process, because there hasn't been a lot of opportunity for us to have all the information we need to have a council discussion at this point in the process. And maybe that's a little bit farther down the line when we're more closer to the design. But I am still feeling very confused about the process. And that is why I feel all sorts of hesitation about doing anything. But if Pepper Construction is doing things like trying to talk about the big picture, how we build the building and the timing of it, which both seem like elements that could save costs, that seems like something that should be part of the discussion at this point. With the caveat that I'm being told that the council will get the say on what the design is, which then the design would obviously dictate the budget. So those are my thoughts. I'm inclined to say yes at this point, but I do think we should have a discussion item in the near future when Paul Woodard can attend, so we can discuss this in a public forum and not just have kind of miscellaneous emails bandied about. Thanks.
Joe.
Yeah, clarification question. So I know when we were reviewing the hub, we were presented with sort of 3 different sizes and options. Is this sort of what's a part of? Okay.
We are going to do that, yes.
Okay, understand. And you alluded to public engagement. What will that look like?
I don't know specifically. I haven't talked to Paul about that. I just know that I have talked to Paul that he will need to lead some public engagement on that. So I think he's identified a couple of options that will be provided for sure. Whether or not he has locations picked out yet for that and formats, I don't know. I do have a note here based on the continued question about process and timeline for this, to talk to Paul and see if he can appear at the next council meeting, or if he's not available for the 8th, certainly the 22nd.
I would just recommend, just given this magnitude of this project, that it be much more robust than our typical public engagement process, and that it be really, really comprehensive so people really understand what this is.
So the other thing I want to mention is, when we approve the CIP tonight, we are approving $35 million. Okay, so this is the budget. So this is something that I discussed with the city administrator today that we need to have options. You know, we need to have what we can build with 35, what we can build with 40, or what we can build with $45 million. So we need to have the options and, you know, and size and what are the, you know, the other thing that it was mentioned yesterday that you mentioned, Jim, is about what are the needs and the wants. So that one is going to be part of the design because the design team wants to know exactly, you know, what is the design that we want, a square foot, and what is the budget, so they can move forward. So I think that is coming. We need to have that discussion next month, isn't it? Yeah. So it's coming. So but tonight we have this resolution is about, you know, the consulting services for this company. So, any other comment? Okay, so I will ask roll call.
Thank you, Mayor. Alder Allen?
No.
Alder Gerhart?
Aye.
Alder Herps is absent. Alder Jetzer?
Aye.
Alder Maldonado?
Aye.
Alder Strassman is absent. Alder Udell?
Aye.
Alder Wheeler?
Aye.
Motion carried.
The motion carries, so, okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Bill, the next one.
Yes, I will move approval of Resolution R 12023, accepting the 2022 Compliance Maintenance Annual Report for the wastewater collection system. for the
Second.
City of Fitchburg, Wisconsin.
Oh, my Lord, okay. Can you explain that, or Tim also can explain? Oh, no.
Yeah, so this is mainly to do with our lift station and our sewer lines, making sure everything is in proper running order, that we don't have a lot of, I don't know, Tim, is it infiltration or exfiltration, stuff leaking out of our sewer pipes, et cetera. And I'm sure, Tim, you'll do a much better job than I will, but this is a report that needs to be filled out annually. And basically, the county is keeping tabs on us, or the state is keeping tabs on us in terms of how well we are maintaining our system.
Okay, Tim, do you want to add anything else?
Yeah, just that it's a requirement under the Wisconsin Pollutant Discharge Elimination System, which is issued by the Wisconsin Department of Natural Resources, oversees this.
Okay, any question, comment? No? Okay, all those in favor of resolution R-120-23, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
The motion carry. Next one.
All right, I will move approval of Resolution R 13123, granting public utility easements on Outlot 35 in Terra Vesta.
Second.
Okay, what is about? Oh, this public work approved?
Public Works approved.
Plan Commission?
They had an amendment. Board of Public Works had an amendment, Bill. Do you want me to cover that for you?
Okay, I didn't know that.
Please.
So Board of Public Works amended it to remove the clause whereas this easement will be non-compensable. So I think we need a clarification if it's been moved with the amendment or moved as originally presented.
In plan? I don't know.
Well, in Board of Public Works, obviously, I guess I'll go back and say that my initial motion here is for the draft as amended by Public Works.
Okay.
And my second will stay the same. Plan Commission approved it as the original motion, the original version.
Okay. Tim, can you provide us more feedback about this?
Yes, this is for the third addition to the Terra Vesta plat, which was approved by the city by Resolution R 2123. And Fitchburg Lands had entered into an agreement for subdivision improvements of the plat. So in order to avoid additional utility crossings in the right-of-way, a public utility easement is necessary across Outlot 3 in Terra Vesta in order to serve the third addition to Terra Vesta. So it's basically avoiding additional utilities in our right-of-way by adding a utility easement to Outlot 35.
Any comment? Oh, Chad.
Tim, with the motion on the floor to strike the easement as non-compensable, could you give the Public Works and Engineering perspective on that? Is this an agreement between the city and anyone, and would this be substantively changing the terms of any agreement if that amendment were to be approved?
No agreements would be changed or amended, and typically the easement during the plat process, it isn't compensable. So this isn't any ordinary different procedure that the city has. So we'd be following normal procedure by removing the fourth whereas clause in the resolution.
So just to clarify, are you okay with that strike from a staff perspective?
Yes.
Thank you.
Any other questions? No? All those in favor of resolution R-131-23, say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed? The motion carries. Okay, so next one.
I will move approval of resolution R-133-23, authorizing rejection of the bid for City Hall front desk remodeling.
Second.
Did Public Works reject this resolution?
Public Works approves the rejection.
And Finance?
Finance approved the rejection as well.
Okay. Can you explain what is this and why we rejected?
City Hall front desk is in need of remodeling, and we put out a request for RFP, and we got one estimate back, and it was nearly double what our engineers estimated the project to cost. And so we are moving that we reject that single bid and maybe wait until timing is a little more favorable and put this out there a second time and see if we get better estimate.
Any questions? No? All those in favor of resolution R-133-23, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion carries. So next we move to Park Commission. David is not here, so no report. Library Board. Jim, yeah, it's looking, his paper.
Sorry, I was looking through some notes.
Okay.
Nothing to report.
Okay. Commission of Aging Well.
Sorry, I just put some food in my mouth.
Okay.
We had a meeting last week, and there was more discussion about a number of things, including the transportation issues that the senior center is having getting older residents there. So I understand there's going to be a request to add some money to the budget for more ride programs, but I did advise them that there may not be room in the budget for that to fit. There was also last week on Tuesday was the groundbreaking for the new patio, so that should be coming soon.
That's it?
That's it.
Okay, thank you. Resource Conservation Commission, Gabriela.
I'm going to start with a report and then I'll move on to the ordinance. Report, we had at our meeting on July 10th, we had an update from the USGS about the Swan Creek Monitoring Station. 2022 was the first full calendar year where we had information, so it gave us a little bit of an update. Some interesting results, but if you want to take a look, you can search USGS Swan Creek Monitoring Station, and it'll come up, and you can take a look at the everything yourself. A couple of notes about stormwater projects. The Seminole Glen Stormwater Study is wrapping up, and there are a couple of options available. So I believe there's some public information meetings. There'll be some more information coming about that soon. I know there was a lot of public interest in that project, so that's coming. Dunn's Marsh study is completed. Basically, the reason there was so much flooding in that area was that the pipes were just simply not big enough for the amount of input of water in the system. So there will be an update coming to that. There's an issue with the Nobel Drive infiltration basin, the one by that technology park. It's not infiltrating because the clay layer, it hasn't gone through the clay layer. The original basin didn't go through the clay layer, so they're having to re-dredge that and they're going to do it as part of the dredging project. There's savings there to cover that. And then they're also in the process of doing some dredging. Some of you may notice that there was some trucks on McKee Road near Chapel Valley that were doing some dredging there. So that's happening around the city. And then also, as our administrator mentioned, there is a sustainability survey that's in relationship to the sustainability plan development. There's a great little news flash on the city website that you can find that has a link to that sustainability plan, the survey that you can take. I encourage everyone to share that out. And then also there's an application for being part of the sustainability plan planning team. So I'd encourage you all to check that out. And then I will move on to the ordinance.
Before we do that, I want to ask a question about something that was in the report.
Okay.
Gabriello, you were mentioning the Nobel Drive Basin. How is the cost for dredging that being covered?
It's from my understanding is it's from savings in the dredging project, because there is just a general project for all dredging projects. Sorry, a general pool of money for dredging projects, and there has been savings, so they're using that to cover that cost.
How old is that basin?
I can't say, but it's not old enough for there to be a problem with it. It was a problem with the original construction of it, and I think they've looked into all that.
So what I'm wondering is, normally we would have a warranty in those contracts, and is there a warranty that covers this? I don't know, Tim. I see Tim still on the line, and I don't know if he would know the answer to that or not. But
all I can say is we talked about it with Ben Schulte, and my understanding was that there was nothing that we could do to recover the cost. But if Tim has more information.
Yeah, typically the warranty period's anywhere from 12 to 14 months on a construction project. So that we're past that deadline.
I see.
Okay, Gabriela, we are ready.
Okay. I move approval of ordinance 2023-014, amending chapter 30 to allow for construction of private wells on agricultural lands adjacent to municipal water main, and amending the terms in chapter 40 for compulsory water connection waivers as amended by Plan Commission.
Second.
Okay, we have new developments, so.
So I'll give an update on this particular ordinance. You'll note in the referral sheet that Resource RCC approved, Board of Public Works approved as amended, Plan Commission approved as amended, and Ag and Rural Affairs postponed to their August 15th meeting. In consultation with the city attorney, since Ag and Rural Affairs did not make a recommendation, ordinance allows them 30 days to make that recommendation one way or the other, or in the absence of a recommendation, it has to be 30 days or greater for council to act. And we are currently less than 30 days from the time this was referred to Ag and Rural Affairs. So in consultation again with the city attorney, the council has two options in front of it. You could postpone until August 8th, which would be 1 week prior to the Ag and Rural Affairs meeting. Since you would be outside the 30-day window at that point in time, council could act. The other alternative option for the council to consider is a postponement to August 22nd. That would allow Ag and Rural Affairs to take this item up again at their August 15th meeting and either make a recommendation or not. And obviously, in the absence of a recommendation, the 30-day window would be exceeded, and council could then act at that point in time. I did speak with Angela at Groundswell today to let her know about this development and whether or not a postponement to August 22nd would significantly impact their proposed enhancements to that parcel via this, what this ordinance would allow. And she indicated that, well, of course, they would prefer an August 8th action. A delay of 2 weeks would not significantly impact what their intent is and their timeline.
Randy?
Since I sit on Ag and Rural, well, of course, I was well aware of the postponement, but when Groundswell left that meeting when we adjourned, they were okay with us postponing, and the reason for the postponement is that we wanted further discussion within Ag and Rural. We could not come to a general consensus, and we just, since it impacts Ag and Rural, we wanted a thorough thought process, a thoughtful process, and to move this project forward. And in fact, I've heard from a number of Ag and Rural, they were somewhat frustrated that this went on to Plan, and Plan didn't postpone it to begin with. So I'm appreciative that the city attorney has stepped in. But I'm encouraging everyone to vote for an opportunity for Ag and Rural to complete their process and then to move it forward. Thank you.
I have a question, and then Jay. Do you think that by August 22nd, Ag and Rural Affairs are going to have like a final decision, because we cannot postpone this anymore? You know what I mean? So do you know they're going to have a resolution you guys are going to have?
Well, I can't speak for every member. I mean, a couple of things to that point is, given that what's been presented with the amendment, I mean, there are a number of committee members that are in agreement with what's being presented this evening. But I think there are a number of other members who would like to have an opportunity to express their concerns and to work through the process. But I have to back up a little bit here. Why could it not be postponed again? Not to say that it's going to be, but you seem to be awfully adamant that we couldn't postpone again.
No, I am asking because, the people from Groundswell, they need to, build the well, it's going to be full, and if we don't, you know what I mean? So that one is
No,
gonna...
I understand, and I understand we will do everything we can to oblige. But I mean, we postpone projects, resolutions all the time, and for the betterment of the community. So we're not going to push something through when we feel it's not worthy to push through. So I can't promise that it won't be postponed, but I have spoken to a number of members, and they are pleased with what was brought forward to Plan, considering we didn't come to that conclusion. And I'm guessing that one member from Ag and Rural that sits on Plan had something to do with that, and I applaud that person. So that committee member. Thank you.
Jay.
Yeah, there's no reason that this couldn't be postponed again. I mean, I know that I know the party involved here, and I've been in an email chain for probably 6 months now with discussion about this thing, because they're trying to do something that our ordinance currently doesn't permit. But when you're trying to do something that the ordinance doesn't permit, you have to take into account that government doesn't move at a snap of a finger. So I don't know what Ag and Rural is going to do with this, but I would move to postpone it till the August 22nd meeting.
Okay.
Yeah. I don't know. I can rescind my motion, and I don't know what's the best way to go, but I was.
Yeah, we need to.
I think it'd be best if you did rescind your motion, and then we
I'll
had a
rescind
new motion
Well,
to
it doesn't.
postpone.
A motion to postpone is a priority motion, so it doesn't matter. But it does need a second at this point.
It does, correct?
Second. I don't know if I can do. Yeah.
Okay, so all those in favor of postponing ordinance 2023-0-14 to the August 22nd meeting, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. Okay. So next we move to Transportation and Transit Commission. Bill.
Yes. So TTC welcomes Ross Kaler as our new transportation engineer. So he'll be our new staff contact going forward, and Tim will take one step back. We talked about a couple things, one of which is that TTC, if you look inside our municipal codes, TTC is, well, I'll just read from you. In Division 10, Section 6-381, other responsibilities, TTC shall review all new development plans and shall recommend to the Plan Commission and to the Common Council changes to be incorporated which conform to the comprehensive plan. I think historically, new developments have not been referred out to TPC for review, and the ordinances seem to indicate that it ought to be. So we look forward to seeing those development plans as they come forward. We also looked at the transit study in Resolution R20522. So the TTC has recommended that this study focus on a couple of specific intercity transit issues, and given lack of resources in public works, et cetera, this has been kind of stalling out. So this is going to be a standing agenda item for us until significant progress, is achieved here. And I guess the last thing I'll mention is that the Beltline PEL, the TTC will formulate some sort of a response and send that on to Madison.
Okay, thank you. Sida. Joe, because we're part of the meeting.
Yep, we met last month. In addition to discussion the tree ordinance, which we've gone over in this meeting, we also discussed the rent-to-own townhome pilot project. Mike just kind of took us through the scope of the project and the amount of townhomes. It would be 10 units on Rimrock Road, Terra Vista, North Fish Hatchery Road. Funding for the land purchase would come from the TID housing dollars, and about $3 million has been identified for the project. Apart from that, just kind of standard updates that occur in CEDA. Our next meeting is this Thursday at 7 a.m.
Thank you. Agricultural and Rural Affairs Committee, Randy?
Yeah, I think we've already discussed the main focus of the meeting, but there was some additional certified survey map and rezone and conditional use discussed for the Fitchburg Apple Garden. So
okay.
Otherwise, there's nothing else to report. Thank you.
Thank you. Bicycle Committee, Joe?
Let me get my bearings here to tell you when the next meeting is. We haven't met since in a few months. So the bike committee will be, sorry. Give me 1 second. August 1st. Thank you,
Okay.
Chad.
EMS, Jim?
And we went over budget issues as far as cost increases, for insurance, which is going to be for medical and dental, maybe about 12%, which I thought was kind of high. Then we got 3% increases for represented employees per their collective bargaining agreement, and another 4% for longevity increases for those that meet the criteria. So that was pretty much it that we went over. I mean, other things are in there too, but I thought those were probably the most important.
Thank you. Healthy Neighborhoods Committee.
Yeah, I was not able to attend the meeting, but there was a presentation of the HNI's annual report, which
Randy was there too.
Randy was there.
We'll let him, go ahead, Jay, finish.
But the annual report went over all the things the HNI has been doing for the last 3 years or so. And I think there's a lot more work for us to do. It would be helpful to have a little more money. But we've got, we do have some programs that are running, and I think it's working out well.
Yeah, no, I think you summed it up well, Jay. Some good points came out, though, from committee members. That one in particular mentioned that it would be nice to see, what the objectives are and what the metrics is, and some of that information behind when a grant is awarded and what the results are. Sometimes that seems to get lost in the months that we don't meet. So that's just one suggestion, and I think that covers from what, other than what Jay has already covered.
Okay, thank you. Housing Advisory Committee.
Yes, we will meet next on September 11th, but prior to that, Joyce Fry has organized some neighborhood walks, so we'll see the current conditions out in the Jamestown neighborhood as well as in Belmar. And I guess stay tuned to see what sort of report falls out of those visits.
Thank you. Landmark Preservation is Shannon, she's not here, and Tree Advisory Committee, Shannon, and she's not here, so. And then we move to P, report from other commission and committees, and then we have the Police Facility Oversight Committee. Jim.
Oh, okay, again. Okay, so we met yesterday, and already the recording is up on the website, so feel free to take a look at that. So they went over, and I'll just kind of briefly go over what some of the goals were, and that was to have a building designed basically according to 21st century principles that was laid out by President Obama. The design fits in with Fitchburg Center Campus, especially the municipal building and the surrounding buildings. A service facility, which is community focused. A building, so we can look at recruitment and retention, because that's a big part of trying to attract people to come here, and built to accreditation standards. I did send 2 documents to everyone. The one talked about the program summary, which is draft number 3, that talks about the square footage for all of the different sections. And then the other document was the sticker shock of $44 million. We discussed a lot, and I think the mayor and I were kind of concerned about the price. And one thing that we did discuss was options. And scalability came up. And, I think, and I agree with the confusion and everything. I think we just need something on paper to actually see what we have to actually work with. Some of the options we're talking about, maybe you don't complete a room, you still build it, but you don't complete it. For example, the range. So if it's determined that a range is needed, then you can have the room for the range, you could purpose it for something else, and then when the money comes up, then you could get the range. So we constantly did talk about options. One of the things that we kept coming up, as far as what the mayor said, we want options, and it's going to be probably three options that we're going to really push for. But again, when you look at police facilities, there are certain things that you have to have. And it's no choice. When you're looking at evidence, I don't think you want to have evidence that's lost, damaged by fire, or anything else like that. And when it comes to an appeal, because people have the right to appeal within a certain amount of time, that evidence is lost. You want to make sure that you have proper procedures for, collecting evidence, drying evidence. We got to look at where the patrol officers are going to be, where the detectives are going to be. So it's a lot in there. And, I just want to say that, we just need to look at, what's going to come before us. And, the mayor made it clear, and I agreed. It's going to be the council that makes the final decision on, what goes into the building and how it's built, if it's built or whatever. But I did talk to Misty today, because one of the things I was concerned about is with the budget and these numbers, and when we have to make some decisions on, as far as costs and everything. So, stay tuned. I don't know if the chief wants to, or we can have the chief give a few words, or I guess it's up to you, Mayor.
I don't know, Chief, do you have any comments?
I just want to add that there's a lot of thought that's going into this, and when we bring options, we will have that to you But there's several experts that are helping out with the pricing. I know some things are coming up. You can pull things up on the internet. The big changes have occurred after 2020, and that's why the sticker shock is occurring. Pre-2020, you can see a lot of buildings that were budgeted and met at the price, which similar prices which were set even for the Fitchburg police facility then. But things have changed after 2020, and those are the challenges, and we're working on those challenges. But when we do have our presentation, I will discuss the pieces, the components that the police facility should include in the new day and age. And it's the 6 pillars include community, officer wellness, include transparency, accreditation, and legitimacy. So we'll be discussing those pieces later, and we will bring them up further at the ad hoc to describe the purpose of the building and why some of these things are costing what they do.
Any comment, question? No? Okay. Thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
You're done? Jim, that's it? Okay. Thank you. So next we move to the standing committees reports and Finance Committee. Randy.
Okay, very good. Motion to approve Resolution R-130-23, 2023 Computer Replacement Project.
Okay, what is this?
We have Terry on Zoom, and
Okay.
he's been waiting patiently. And he spoke before Finance this evening. So if you don't mind, Terry.
No, not at all. Not at all. Thank you. So this is the computer replacements for aging computers in the city, and it is for a majority of the departments in the city do have computers that are 6 years old, and that's beyond our standard. Typically, we like to replace computers when they're 4 to 5 years old, depending on use. Obviously, things such as the squad computers get replaced a little bit more often based on usage and technology. But this is an ask for the funds that were budgeted to replace 34 desktop computers and 28 laptops, as well as an additional 3 years of support for all of those devices. So that would include 4 years of warranty and support for those devices moving forward.
Thank you. Any questions? No? Okay. All those in favor of Resolution R-130-23, say aye.
Aye.
Nays. The motion is carries. Okay. What happened? Oh, Gabriela was late. Okay. Personnel Committee, Gabriela.
We have our next meeting on Wednesday, August 8th at 4 p.m. Oh, I'm sorry. I take that back. We have our next meeting on Wednesday, August 9th at 4 p.m. We were originally going to meet in July to discuss the Baker Tilly staffing study, but they weren't prepared for that presentation just yet, so we're doing it in August instead. You all are invited to attend, but we'll also summarize it. You'll receive that report as part of the council too. But yes, that's coming up soon. Thanks.
Thank you. Public Safety, Jay.
Oh, we had a fun meeting tonight.
Okay.
We approved a lot of party applications at various city parks that are involving amplified sound. So feel free to crash a party as they're happening in a bunch of public parks over the next few weeks. And then we had 2 operators' licenses needing special attention. The first one is Mercedes Pleadwell, and I would move approval of that application.
Second.
So she came to us tonight and appeared before the committee, as is required in a situation like this. Essentially, the police department had a concern because there was a burglary situation that happened 2 years ago, and she's been working with her probation officer, and things seem to be going well. So the Public Safety Committee decided that it was worth giving her, this is a job that she currently holds, and that she should be able to continue her employment.
Any questions? Comments? All of them in favor of providing this operator license to Mercedes Blitwell, say aye.
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 Any opposed? The motion carries. Second.
And the other one is an operator's license for Lambert. Oh, he was there to pronounce his last name. Twizimana, who came to us. This is a new application that he is applying for to work at the CP gas station on Rimrock Road. And his particular situation involved a resisting arrest issue that the police department was obviously concerned about. However, this particular incident happened in 2017, and because it was 6 years ago and he's not had any incidents since, we decided that he should be given the opportunity to be employed in that job. Oh, so I will make a motion to approve. Thank you.
Second.
Any question, comments? All those in favor of providing the license to Lambert Twizimana, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion carries. Okay. New business. So these one are direct referral. So the first one is from Board of Public Works. So, Bill.
Yes, I will move approval of resolution R 14023, approving a municipal agreement for carbon reduction program.
Second.
Second. Did Public Works approve?
Public Works approved.
Did Finance Committee approve?
The Finance Committee approved.
Okay, thank you. What is this, Bill?
We would like to replace 105 sodium vapor streetlights with LEDs, and this will be paid for largely with grant money. This is one of the usual 80-20 splits, is that correct, Tim?
That is correct.
And so this will save a bit over 15 tons of CO2 annually. Is that correct, Tim? I should have pulled up my notes here.
The referral page lists over 12 tons.
Yeah, it's about 12.2 tons.
Okay, so any comment, Jay?
So looking at the map, it looks like all of these lights that are being proposed for replacement are basically in residential areas. They're not like on PD or Fish Hatchery Road, but they're all in residential areas off the street.
That is correct.
Is this going to improve, is this going to provide more lumens than the existing mercury vapor or sodium vapor lamps?
The majority is going to match the existing brightness. There's a couple of those areas where security and safety is an issue, so we'd look to kind of illuminate those areas a little bit more.
Because it seems like, you know, looking at the map to see where these are located, it seems like some of these are really old lighting fixtures that we have out there. So I presume that they are not zero cutoff fixtures and that the new ones will be, so that all the light will be directed down instead of, you know, going off into the atmosphere.
Yeah, as part of this project, not only the bulb, but also the fixture is getting replaced.
Excellent.
Any other questions? All those in favor of resolution R-140-23, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion carries. So next is another Public Works resolution. Bill.
Yes. I will move approval of Resolution R 14623, approving the collateral assignment of agreement for subdivision improvements in the third edition to the plat of Terra Vesta.
Second.
What is this?
Or do you want the committees?
Yeah, Public Works approved.
Oh, okay, sorry. Finance?
Finance Committee approved as well.
Okay, sorry, it's too late.
Right.
Okay, what is this, Bill?
Yeah, this is the third addition to the plat of Terra Vesta, and this is about securing financing for the development. So this agreement is largely similar to the one that we had for the second edition of Terra Vesta. Developers will be working with one community bank, and so this will be an agreement between the bank, the city, and the developers.
Any question, comment? Okay, all those in favor of resolution R-146-23, say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed? The motion carries. Next one is a Finance Committee. Randy.
Motion to approve Resolution R-147-23, amending the 2023 general fund budget, police records LTE staffing.
Second.
And the Finance Committee approved.
Okay. Do you want the chief to explain? Okay.
Yeah, since Chief spoke at Finance, so.
Yes, we have a vacancy in our records specialist area, and we have several open records requests that come in on a regular basis to include reports that need to be processed for court and other areas within the justice system. We are requesting a limited-term employee to help with that caseload until we find a permanent position during the hiring process.
Okay. Any question? Jay?
Yeah, why does this require a budget amendment if it's basically the same position?
Because it's a limited term, is what I'm understanding, we have to go through.
And we need single majority, that's it. Any comment, question? Okay, thank you, Chief. All those in favor of resolution?
Roll call requested.
Roll call, okay, roll call.
Thank you, Mayor. Alder Allen.
Aye.
Alder Gerhart.
Aye.
Alder Herbst is absent. Alder Jutser.
Aye.
Alder Maldonado.
Aye.
Alder Strassman is absent. Alder Udell.
Aye.
Alder Wheeler.
Aye.
Motion is carried.
Thank you. Okay, so next is a Plan Commission resolution. Gabriela.
I'll move approval of Resolution R-148-23, approving certified survey map request CS 2509-23 by David Wilds, agent for Betty A. Forest Revocable Trust, to consolidate a farm and subdivide one parcel from 4 existing parcels on a property associated with 2227 Fitchburg Road.
Second.
Did Plan Commission approve?
Yes.
Did Ag and Rural Affairs Committee approve?
Yes.
Okay, what is this, Gabriela?
This is connected to the next one, but it's this is Apple Garden, Apple Orchard, and Pumpkin Farms. They are looking to expand some of their activities, install a commercial kitchen, and they needed to do this process and then also to change the zoning and do a conditional use request. The zoning is the next one we'll see.
Any question, comment? All those in favor of resolution R-148-23, say aye.
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 Any opposed? The motion carries. Next one.
I move approval of ordinance 2023-015, approving rezone request RZ 2510-23 by David Wilds, agent for Betty A. Forest Revocable Trust, to rezone properties from AX exclusive agriculture to AS small lot agriculture on properties associated with 2227 Fitchburg Road.
Second.
Did Plan Commission approve?
Yes.
Did Ag and Rural Affairs approve?
Ag and Rural Affairs approved.
Thank you. What is this, Gabriela?
This is connected to the last one. It's Apple Garden, Apple Orchard, and they are looking for a rezone so that they can expand the activities that they do, I believe mostly in the fall.
Okay, Jay.
So they're not adding anything new, they're just continuing, they're just doing more of what they have been doing.
So actually, they are adding a commercial kitchen in order to be able to do some things. So according to the Plan Commission memo, they said there's some other uses they're looking at to do non-motorized playground equipment, wagons, sleigh, and hay rides, animal displays, petting farms, and pony rides, outdoor site for conducting wedding ceremonies, food preparation facilities to support on-site activities, seasonal outdoor mazes of agricultural origin. The commercial kitchen will provide food service for only 15 to 30 guests, and the parking capacity is still limited to what they currently have, which is 69 spaces. So it will be an expansion of their activities, but it's still somewhat in line in terms of the impact of the area. That's my understanding from the plan, what the plan department shared.
Well, the only concern that I have about it is, and I guess if they're only going to be having 15 to 30 guests, that's probably not a big problem, but does the septic system they currently have support the expansion of the kitchen?
I do not have the answer to that question.
You don't?
I don't think that we discussed that in Plan Commission.
All right.
Do you know that, Chad?
I don't know the answer to that question either.
We can ask Diana.
Deanna is on. I don't know
Oh, really?
if she is able to answer
okay.
that.
Yeah, I'm right here. Can you hear me okay? So with the expansion of the kitchen facilities, the applicant will have to work with the building inspection team and also with Dane County. Dane County actually licensed all their septic systems, and so that will have to be looked at when they pull their building permits.
Okay, any other question? Thank you, Diana. All those in favor of ordinance 2023-00-15, say aye.
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 Any opposed? The motion carries. So now we are moving to unfinished business, and is the adopting of the 2024-2033 capital improvement plan. So I need a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Okay. So then we're going through the amendments, isn't it? Misty. Okay, Misty.
Good evening, everyone. So included in the packet were the 3 council proposed amendments that were submitted by the deadline. The information about the amendment, as well as the CIP page and a staff memo, if appropriate, was all out on the website and should be included in the packet as well. So generally what we do is we'll go amendment by amendment. You're welcome to make amendments to the amendment. So for example, for the first one, it's in CIP project 3450. So you are welcome to change that within that CIP project, but you can't pick a different CIP project and make an amendment to that one. So that's all I have. You
That's
can
it?
kick it off
Okay.
the first one.
So Bill, you're first. Can you introduce your amendment?
Yes. I am making an amendment to the CIP to add traffic calming to High Ridge Trail, which is an area in North Fish Hatchery Road that has had issues with both pedestrian safety and, unfortunately, shootings in recent months. And adding traffic calming to the roads, slow cars down, and make things, visibly more pedestrian friendly, has been shown to be an effective crime deterrent.
Second.
Bill, okay. So my question was, you need to make the a motion first, and then we need a second, and then you explain, okay?
I knew that.
That is your first one. It's your first CIP, so, okay. Okay, so we have a second, okay. So, any question, comments? I don't know. We have some people from the police department here that they want to provide some feedback about this. Oh, Jay.
Yeah. Bill, do you have any specific ideas for what the traffic calming would entail at this point?
Yeah, actually, the agenda packet has some information provided by the Board of Public Works. If we can find that.
Page 310 of the agenda packet.
Thank you. Okay. I guess we can all read this, but I'll give you the highlights here. So we'll add some raised pedestrian crossings, which will act as speed bumps. When you place them correctly, speed bumps typically will reduce vehicle speed to a maximum of 20 to 25 miles per hour. The correct spacing for these, according to Public Works, is between 300 and 500 feet. And raised crosswalks can reduce pedestrian crashes by 45%, according to the Federal Highway Administration. I guess that's a pretty good summary. So we'd be adding some combination of raised crossings and speed bumps, and wherever there is a raised pedestrian crossing, we would be striping that as well.
So I presume we're talking about a speed table?
Correct.
And not a speed bump?
Right. So I guess the raised crossings would be, I don't know what they are, 6 feet wide or more. Tim, do you have like information on what we would do kind of as a standard for the city? I know we've got some raised crossings in the Swan Creek neighborhood, and those are, fairly wide, but I think wider than a mid-block speed bump or speed table.
Yeah, speed tables are more effective than a standard speed bump or hump. The tables flatten 10 feet wide versus a speed bump, which is, anywhere from maybe a foot or two wide. So our recommendation would be the raised speed tables.
So I have a question, maybe. What is the purpose of this bill? I want to understand the purpose of this amendment. What you're planning to, the goal of this, what we're, is the table.
Yeah.
I don't understand. Is preventing crime? Is preventing? Is speeding? What is this?
Correct. So one thing that it does is it'll prevent high-speed traffic, and that is a deterrent to crime. So nobody can drive in, do their mischief, and then exit at a high rate of speed without damaging their car. And this has been shown to be an effective crime deterrent. And I did include some links to various studies in my amendment. But this will also, raised crossings also make things significantly safer for pedestrians who are trying to get across the street. So it's kind of a twofold goal, multifunctional street improvement.
Jim.
There is a model out there, and what is called as DDAX, and that's data-driven approach to crime and traffic safety. And that is a huge model where you're looking at traffic data, and you're also looking at police calls for service. You also are bringing in the public because you need enforcement for that. But for the life of me, I cannot see how a person who is basically out target someone, whether it be a drug rip, whether it be retaliation for something or beef, would worry about speed bumps. I mean, I've been in pursuits myself where they don't care about curbs, they don't care about medians, they don't care about hitting other vehicles, other people. I mean, I get where you're going with this, but the speed bumps, to say that it's going to prevent crime in and of itself, I would just like to see more data on that one, because in my 28 years, and maybe the chief or some of the other officers, I don't get where that is going to stop someone who was really out to get someone to kill them. I mean, for whatever reason, that they're going to be stopped, look at the characteristics of a street, and I sent you an email on this, look at the characteristics of a street and say, well, I'm not going to go after that person because, you know, they got speed humps. So I would like to hear a little bit more on that one.
Joe.
Yeah, Mayor or maybe the Fitchburg PD can answer. Have there also been issues with speeding? A lot of complaints from residents, because I know I get those in a lot of areas of my district about like certain thoroughfares that people just really barrel down. So I mean, in addition to like a possible crime or retaliation, I'm wondering if speeding has been an issue specifically on that road.
I was the ALDE representing that district for at least 2 years, and I never received any complaint, particularly. I don't know if you can, the police, maybe they have better data, I don't know. But I was not aware of speeding. I am aware of other things, but not that.
Ned will talk more about the data, but there's a couple of different views or approaches to take when you're having traffic-related issues, speeding, for example, or crime. And I want to talk about the two approaches as I had the conversation with Alder Jetzer. There's crime prevention through environmental design, and in using that crime prevention through environmental design, and there's also for traffic issues, you view the traffic problems and solving the traffic problems through an engineering lens, through an enforcement lens, or through an education lens, the 3 E's. So when we're looking at some of the problems and in the conversation, a crime prevention approach is, if you want to use an engineer, what can we do to calm traffic? That's what Alder Jetzer is bringing up. Or in a crime approach, what can you bring to that location if there's crime problems there? But before, when using those approaches, you also have to include the data. And what is the data telling you about that location? So that's where Ned is going to talk about, does the data call for us to seek engineering advice on on what to use in that area? As far as the crime prevention piece, the location is more towards on High Ridge is the Pines. The incidents that occurred there were, and I want to say, more random or geared towards a particular apartment building. In fact, one of the most updates is the Memorial Weekend shooting. One of the people that was involved but released, and more so in the fight, not the shooting, was arrested yesterday at that same location for a shooting in Madison, and that's the one that was on the news on Sunday. So that an approach to use, or an engineering approach for the street, maybe not be conducive to what the problems are at the Pines. That's a different thing, and that's more of a, the city of Fitchburg, all of us together working with management or the ownership ownership at the Pines to identify a problem-oriented approach there. As far as traffic, and that's what Ned will talk about, is the data telling us that there's a need for that to work with engineers and identify a solution? I'll let Ned speak on that part. But those are the two approaches that we as law enforcement support in working with our other entities within City Hall on curbing some of those problems that occur within the city.
To answer Alder Maldonado's question, we have not received any complaints specifically on High Ridge. I know anecdotally Alder Jetzer had shared some observations from a couple of the business owners specifically related to pedestrian crossing, I believe at Fish Hatchery Road and High Ridge Trail there, especially after the area has been redeveloped. I have been working closely with the Public Works Department over the last couple of years, specifically in the area of traffic concerns, to coordinate when we receive a concern, whether it comes into one of you, to the police department, or to Public Works. And in the absence of a transportation engineer, we've been conducting the speed studies, putting up the collection devices. And to my recollection, we have not conducted one of those recently in there to actually understand both the volume and the speeds of that traffic.
Thank you.
Jim.
The other question I have, I mean, I do think, we could do an analysis as far as the speed is concerned. But I guess the question is, if this is coming out of ARPA funds, are we going to reevaluate the list of things that's on ARPA? Because we're already spending more than what we have. So, I mean, what is the process when these things are added? I mean, do we come back and I don't know.
Misty.
Yeah, I can answer that one. So the CIP is a planning document, so nothing that is in here is necessarily final. It has to go through the operating budget process. And so during that process for 2024 is when council will really need to prioritize, because you're exactly right. We're almost $1 million more of projects we want to spend than the money that we have available, even including the 2 TIDs that we just closed. So yes, prioritization will continue to be needed.
Chad.
I also just want to point out the last paragraph in the Public Works memo that was drafted in regards to this particular amendment. It references the city's neighborhood traffic management process. I know that engineering and PD are in the process of updating that document yet this summer here. And we'll also be doing a presentation. I think, did Alder Allen, we look at September or August Committee of the Whole on that update and other traffic management and enforcement components. Ultimately, the council can certainly decide to authorize funding for this, but I do think that it's important for the council to recognize we have a process that we utilize to collect data, review information, to present or to project some measure of consistency and guidelines to where traffic calming measures are placed throughout the city. And this applies not only to this amendment, but also amendment number 2, that I would expect council, if approving either of these, that would allow staff to actually do an evaluation to determine the suitability for traffic calming measures in general, and then more specifically what those specific calming measures would be if the data and engineering information supported the traffic calming measures.
Jay?
I agree with that. I think, I mean, I'm not opposed to putting in speed tables on largely residential streets, just because, I mean, you know, we sit here and the number one complaint we get from people is speeding. As long as I've been an elected official, that's like the number one thing that's most consistent over time. Whether that's the best answer here, I don't know, because we don't have the data. But, I mean, I'm going to vote in favor of this amendment because I think having the money available is better than not having it available. And if we have to come back later and do an amendment, you know, that's a pain in the butt. So since we're here right now and we've got the opportunity to stick some money in there and have it available if it turns out that it's warranted, I think that's just good planning. I don't know how many speed tables we would need there. I know the memo said anywhere between 300 and 500 feet, and I mean I don't know. I don't know because we don't have the information. But you know, putting it in there isn't going to hurt anything, and it doesn't obligate us to spend it, as Misty would happily tell us, because that decision comes later. But you know, having it available as a possible resource should the time come, I think it's a good helpful thing to do.
Gabriela?
I think I'm going to go ahead and support this. I think, you know, we should, this particular area has had a couple of, high profile shooting incidents, and the neighbors are quite worried. We had a neighborhood meeting in that area over a month ago where neighborhoods were really wanting some action taken to protect the people in that region. And I think they would appreciate discussion from the city about options that could be taken, including maybe traffic calming in this way. And I will say that we already have in that project prior to this money, you know, was for traffic calming in Healthy Neighborhoods Initiative priority neighborhoods. So maybe we could, I don't mind adding this money, and then maybe we should have a conversation about what we can, where we can best put those funds. Again, this is a planning document. It's not allocation of the budget. So, and I don't think we specifically talked about it as safety being part of the consideration with the traffic calming. And obviously, I think there is something to that. And obviously, there's that article that Alder Jetzer linked to that talked specifically about a case in Portland where traffic calming reduced shootings in the area significantly. So I think there is something to that. So yeah, I'm in support. I think obviously we need more discussion, but I think presenting something like this as a possibility for the neighborhood, I think would be well received and is something that we should keep on the table.
Jim. Oh, Joe first and then Jim.
Yeah, so this isn't specifically about this area, but Alder Herbst and I were in a neighborhood meeting in Allied. Obviously, we share a border with Madison, so there was a lot of Madison and Fitchburg presence. And it was kind of clear that there was a different process that the city of Madison took on from the city of Fitchburg. I feel pretty comfortable in Fitchburg's process, but it seems like Madison's process was a lot more nuanced in terms of like the process for, they have a safe streets program prioritization tool, and I'm wondering whether there's been any engagement between Fitchburg and Madison, just like in case we could learn anything from their tools and implement it, because it sounded like there were just a lot more considerations than what we do, which is, you know, if you have to get a certain amount of signatures and you have to look at traffic data, but they seem to have a lot more nuances than we did. So I'm wondering if that's something we've looked into.
I suspect we'll reach out during the process, but our current management process does have additional factors that are considered, such as school zone, proximity to schools, whether or not sidewalks exist in a particular neighborhood, pedestrian counts and those sorts of things. So there is some ability to kind of, escalate or prioritize based upon a particular complaint and the location and factors that contribute there. But we can certainly reach out and confirm that we're at least somewhat aligned or completely aligned, whatever the case may be.
Thank you.
Jim.
I'm going to trust the police chief on this one, that data will be used and this will be used correctly. I think what people need to understand, when you do this type of traffic calming, it was a heavy police presence that also included enforcement, hotspot policing, and everything else. And I think we need to be careful if we're going to try to do some type of operation there where we're going to say we're going to use traffic calming to actually reduce crime, especially when you're in black and brown communities. Mm-hmm. Because like I said, Portland, Seattle, I read the article, and it's basically DDAX. And it's heavy enforcement. That's your deterrent. I mean, we did something like that in Madison. You don't see, you see no stop and standing or parking signs along Badger Road, Cypress Way, Magnolia, because of open air drug dealing. And the part of that was people were just stopping, going into apartments, buying drugs. Put the signs up, but we did heavy enforcement too, because that's where your deterrent's coming from. I mean, it's not coming from just because of you're putting speed bumps. So if we're going to do this, I say we do it correctly. And like I said, I trust the chief. He will get the data and everything else like that. And, if there's any type of police enforcement that comes with that, then we really need to let the community know what's going to go on. I mean, I just, when we try to compare what other cities are doing, we need to compare apples to apples and really, examine this. Because like I said, Seattle, Portland, they use heavy enforcement and other kind of like quality of life things in order to change that neighborhood, along with the barricades. So I just want to, I just think we need to tread carefully and get all the data and get all the information. I think that'll be up to the chief.
Jay.
Yeah, I just wanted to echo what Jim said. I don't think for 1 minute that adding speed tables to that neighborhood is going to reduce the amount of crime or the risk of being shot. I think there are other things that we as a community need to do that would be far more effective. But as somebody who has driven that street many times, I know that there are people who are not driving at an appropriate speed. So, I mean, I think that there's all kinds of different safety issues that the city has to deal with. And speeding isn't just about crime, although, I mean, I presume that someone who commits some sort of crime generally speeds away from the area, but, you know, I doubt that somebody who's going to murder somebody sits there and contemplates, well, you know, if I go down this street, I'm going to have to deal with a couple of speed tables. I mean, I just don't think that's part of the process. So I think there are plenty of things that we need to do as a community. I don't think that reducing crime is the best justification for this, but I think there is justification for it based on what I've seen in my own little anecdotal world.
Okay, I want to make my comments. I don't understand this amendment because I am confused what is the goal of that. If I have to vote, I will vote no for this because I think we are targeting an area with this speed bump or table or whatever we want to call. I don't think that there are any speeding issue in that area. There are crime issues, and it's different. So I agree with what you say, Jim. I don't know. So this one is going to stop crime? I don't think so. Do we have a speeding situation there? No. So why we are doing this? But this is my personal position. I don't vote, but I want to make my comment. Randy.
I'm going to say that I'm in agreement with you, and we don't do that too often of late. So you make some very, very good points, and Jim, you as well, and Chief. So I'm going to vote no as well.
Bill?
Yeah, so, when I stumbled across that article, I was initially surprised to learn that traffic calming is a useful crime deterrent. I did put in 3 links to, that I found, which basically back my point. I will not claim to be an expert, but I just want to say that my overall goal here is exactly what Chief Morales described, crime prevention through environmental design. So essentially, would you rather run a 100-meter dash or a 100-meter hurdle? And you're going to say, if you're trying to get away from somewhere, you'd rather not have the hurdles in front of you. And whether we choose to believe it or not, there are situations in which the addition of those speed tables is in fact enough to deter crime. Again, I'm not the expert, and you can't always believe what you read on the internet, but it makes logical sense to me that if you're gonna, if you're in a hurry to get away and you can't do it without damaging your car, you're gonna think twice about doing it. So again, crime prevention through environmental design was my thinking here, that doing something rather than nothing is going to help without requiring any additional police presence in the neighborhood.
Thank you. Joe?
Process question. What constitutes a majority since we have 2 alders missing? Would it be 4 or would it be 5?
Majority of the members present and voting.
Got it.
Okay, are we ready? Okay, so I want to ask roll call.
Thank you, Mayor. Alder Allen.
Aye.
Alder Gerhart.
Aye.
Alder Herbst is absent. Alder Jetzer.
Aye.
Alder Maldonado.
Aye.
Alder Strassman is absent. Alder Udell.
No.
Alder Wheeler.
No.
You have 4-2.
So, do we have what? Okay, the motion carry. Okay, next one, Bill, is...
I move to amend the 2024 to 2033 capital improvement plan to add bike lanes to Pembroke and Osmondson as part of the traffic calming exercise to reduce speeding on those roads.
Second.
Okay, so first I would like to apologize to my colleagues over in District 4 for including Osmondson Road in this without consulting them. That was my mistake. Sorry, guys. Earlier this evening, Ross Cohen spoke in favor of this amendment. He and I had a conversation a few months back. There are many neighbors on that street that have the low children at play signs on there. Ross brought the results of the study that Lieutenant Hartwig had conducted, showing the numbers. Regarding Osmondson, that concern came to me kind of sideways through Bike Fitchburg. Somebody who lives on that road communicated with Bike Fitchburg about, having some kind of traffic calming on Osmondson. And while I was thinking about Pembroke, I thought, hey, Osmondson is right around the corner. Let's include that as well. So that's how we wound up there. Questions?
Any question? Joe?
Sorry, I'm not able to pull up my agenda on here. Where specifically on Osmondson are you looking at?
I think from PD to the south, whether that goes all the way to Lacey Road or whether that stops at Pembroke, because I guess I'm not entirely sure. We probably need to go through the traffic management program and see where it's justified. But if we go to Pembroke, it's not all that much further to go to Lacey either. But then along Pembroke, I think at least to Richardson Street, where it makes the transition from Pembroke to Sherrill Drive.
But I think we need to know how far it goes because of the budget. So this budget is from PD to Pembroke, or is from PD to Lacey?
Tim, can you expound on that a bit? I guess I wasn't sure how far you guys were, what was included in that estimate that you provided.
Yeah, we assumed worst case, which would be to Lacey,
Okay.
that entire length.
So I think the grand total is in the neighborhood of 1.6 miles between the two roads.
And Pembroke will be from Osmondson to Richardson.
Is that correct, Tim?
Okay.
You stopped at Richardson?
Yeah, I stopped there, so. Okay.
Yes.
Randy first and then Jay.
Yes, I cannot speak to Pembroke, but I can speak to Osmondson, and maybe Jim will elaborate as well. But Osmondson is in District 4, and it's also my neighborhood, Seminole Forest, and I've been in conversation with the folks on Osmondson, the residents on Osmondson since 2020, that there is a speed concern, traffic, that they would like some type of traffic calming. It has been brought about as far as striping, bike lanes, and I can assure you the residents on Osmondson are not enthusiastic about your proposal. Last year I proposed 2 speed feedback boards for 4 districts, which would bring it to 8, so 2 of them would have been proposed for Osmondson, and I don't think that's the cure-all. It's a coordinated effort between maybe the speed bumps, the speed tables. Some of the residents really do like the curb extension, but I think it's a combination of all. I do have some concerns with the striping, and is this really traffic calming, or is it a means to an end for something else? Richardson was striped at one time. It looked like a runway. We don't see much striping anymore. And I would think that if it was effective on Richardson, the residents would be asking for the striping to be restriped. So I'm not in favor of this amendment. I'd like to wait until we have our meeting September 6th on traffic calming and to move something forward of a more permanent.
Jay, and then Jim.
Well, I think there's plenty of evidence, not just from other places in Fitchburg, but from other communities in the area, that putting striping lanes and putting in bike lanes slows traffic down. It makes so one of the things about this neighborhood was built very, very early. It was built right about the time of incorporation. Some of it was built a little before that. Most of it was built after that. And the roads in this neighborhood, the streets in this neighborhood are really, really wide. We would never approve a subdivision like this anywhere else in the city of Fitchburg. And if you go and look at our other neighborhoods that have been built in, say, the last 10, 15, 20 years, we don't have streets like this. This was a very old way of thinking about building these big, wide, you're right, like an airport landing strip type of street, and it's just completely unnecessary. There's a large amount of land that's been chewed up to be used as a street. I mean, in my perfect world, what I would do is I would turn these all into boulevards and put center islands in. That's really costly, and so I don't think that's happening anytime soon. But there's a chunk of it where Osmondson meets Lacey. That's the kind of thing where we could expand that through the rest of the streets in that neighborhood. It's a big bite to go in and add all that curb and gutter, and maybe at some time when these streets get reconstructed, not just resurfaced, but when they actually get reconstructed, we can do something like that. But I do think adding bike lanes will slow the traffic down. I don't think there's any question about that. I know some people don't like the appearance, but this neighborhood also doesn't have sidewalks largely. And so that makes for a more dangerous situation when the people who are walking don't have a place to be except in the really wide airport landing strip street. So I will support this. I think it's something that we should do. I think it's something that should have been done, and I think it needs to be properly maintained. This whole idea, the whole bike lane thing has been politicized in Fitchburg to an extent that is absurd. There's nothing wrong with bike lanes, and I've been watching the political fight over this for 30 years, and it drives me nuts because, we ought to be able to sit down and have a rational discussion about this without trying to find some nefarious purpose behind what people are proposing. So I don't know that there's any. I don't think there's any other agenda here. I don't have any other agenda here. I think putting bike lanes on a street make it safer. So I will support this.
Jim and then Bill.
Yeah, just a question. So this is a planning document. So when this stuff goes through, there's still going to be a process that you have to go through and evaluate? Okay, that's all I need to know.
Bill?
Yeah. So Randy, going back to what you said about a means to an end, I will freely admit that, I'm a biker and I would enjoy having bike lanes, and I think all the roads should have bike lanes. But that's not my main goal here. I was responding to, residential complaints about speeders, and again, similar to what I was recommending for High Ridge Trail, I wanted raised pedestrian crossings because it would both slow traffic and make things safer for pedestrians. And in this instance, I think the bike lanes will both slow traffic and make things safer for bikers. So, yeah, that's it's both. It's not that I'm just a fanatic about biking. Yeah.
Jim and then Randy.
Yeah, one more thing. I was talking to a resident, Andy Potts. He said that a petition is on its way to us and on Thursday. And basically, the residents wanted more than actually, bike lanes. I think they were talking about bump outs and everything else like that. So I don't know how that fits into all of this, but, the residents are asking for more than just bike lanes. If it's a part of it, fine, but I don't know.
Randy and then Bill.
I know the person that mentioned the traffic calming to your organization, Bill. When I mentioned to her about the bike lanes as the proposal for traffic calming, she didn't jump up and down. So this was not on the top of her list of as far as the traffic calming. But I'm curious as to why you didn't go back and include Richardson then. So, I mean, you've kind of got Richardson that has been striped, but has been, for lack of better words, neglected, but hasn't been maintained. But now you're going to place it on Pembroke and Osmondson. So I guess I'm a little confused that way, but maybe it's just more of a statement than anything else.
Bill?
Yeah. Okay. So, I mean, the reason is simple. I haven't heard complaints from people on Richardson. I did hear complaints from people on Pembroke and Osmondson. That being said, I am not married to the idea of bike lanes either. If the residents prefer something else, I want to do what the residents, it's not what the residents want, what's best for the residents, not here to do this about it later. But again, getting the money in the CIP doesn't necessarily mean we have to spend it, doesn't necessarily mean we have to spend it on what I actually wrote in the amendment here. So I am open to any and all means of traffic calming that makes things safer for our residents.
Yeah, but I want to speak first. Yes, let me speak. As a elder of District 2, I receive a lot of complaints about Richardson. So if you guys don't want it in Osmond, we can put it in Richardson. So we can take it. Gabriela.
Well, I just wonder if the overall purpose is traffic calming and speeding prevention, maybe we could just change the language of the amendment just to say add pavement markings on Pembroke and Osmondson to help prevent speeding. And then those pavement markings can be determined by the city staff in the neighborhood as whatever would work best. Just a suggestion if we wanted to make it more generic and make it clear that that's the purpose of the amendment is really the traffic calming and more the traffic calming and less the bike bike access.
I think if the body wanted to make an amendment to go more general, I think you could utilize traffic calming. I think the point is made that if the council elects to authorize funding for this project or this amendment, that ultimately it would go through the process that the city utilizes for all traffic calming measures. So I don't know as though an amendment is truly necessary to initiate the process.
So I want to mention, I did something similar to that like 4 or 5 years ago in Longford. And I think we added some speed bump in that road. And I remember we worked with the police department because we had to do all the calming the process, that involved, tracking the speed and then determine that it qualifies. And then having the approval of all the neighbors that they live in the area, to install the speed bump and then put it in the CIP. So it took like a year to do that process. So this is my question. If the neighbors, Randy, are planning to come with a petition, it's the petition if they want a speed bump or whatever, it's gonna go through the next CIP process, because this is more like a capital improvement, you know what I mean? So there should be an expectation that, even they come here, they bring all the petition that they want this, the city had to go through the process, and then you guys need to put that in the next CIP, If I don't know.
Yeah, I think the petition, though, is for traffic calming, not necessarily striping for bike lanes.
Okay.
They're looking at a combination of bump out extensions, which they're very in favor of, some speed feedback boards. We've had success over on Osmondson and Schumann, and that took a long process. It was a couple years, and they are up and working. And there was a large community turnout. I say community; it's more of a neighborhood that turned out and wanted some type of traffic calming. And we in this body eventually voted on it. First time around failed. Second time passed. Those boards are there. And the neighbors are very pleased. That's it by the pool club, Seminole Forest Pool Club. So, I mean, they want some type of traffic and the bump outs and the speed humps, bumps. That is what they're looking for. So I think that when the petition comes out on Thursday, I don't know if it's going to state that, but that's the overall feedback that I've received and the number of meetings that I've had with them. I think there's 38 residents up and down Osmondson. So, yeah.
Bill?
Yeah, so you had mentioned Longford Terrace, and that's a little bit of a different situation. But I will say that in that particular case, because there is direct access to the Capital City Trail, I kind of feel like bike lanes would have been appropriate on Longford Terrace. I don't know the commuting habits of anyone on Osmondson or Pembroke, but if there is significant interest in, biking to work, the civic campus, et cetera, then I'll be in favor of whatever we think is going to be best for the safety of the residents in the neighborhood.
Okay, so do I have an amendment to this amendment? 1, 2, no? So, okay.
What are you thinking about as far as an amendment? I mean,
No, because Gabriela said that maybe we should introduce a more general language to this, so we can be open to other options.
I think there's an understanding based upon the conversation that, that the assessment will be done, and if it recommends something other than bike lanes or road striping, for instance, this obviously come back to the council because there'll be a cost associated with it, and you'll have the opportunity to weigh in at that point in time if you feel that the recommended option is acceptable or not.
So roll call.
Thank you, Mayor. Alder Allen.
Aye.
Alder Gerhart.
Aye.
Alder Herbst is absent. Alder Jetzer.
Aye.
Alder Maldonado.
Aye.
Alder Strassman is absent. Alder Udell.
No.
Alder Wheeler.
aye.
Okay, the motion
5 to 1.
carries. Okay, thank you. Then we move to amendment number 3. David is not here, so I need a motion, so come anyone. It's your district, so.
I don't feel comfortable moving it.
Okay.
I feel like he's not here to represent the concern, and I don't.
Do we table it or?
No. This is the CIP, we need.
I'll move approval of amendment number 3.
I need a second.
See if we get a second.
I'll second it.
Okay. So, I don't know, Misty, can you?
I'll at least read the description. I don't think Misty was provided with any other information than what's in the description. So Alder Herbst is proposing removal of the recreational circuit around Dunn's Marsh, which was funded for $250,000. What year was that planned for, Misty?
2028.
2028. So according to the amendment, Alder Herbst is indicating that this recreational circuit is not needed for the following reasons. A circular walking path exists around Dunn's Marsh today. Crossing Seminole is required, but a wide path with a better view of the marsh is available. These crossings are used safely by hundreds of residents a day, and a flashing light is also on one of the crossings. Second reason, the proposed path parallel to Seminole is a wetland that will require expensive suspended walkways. 3, no view of the marsh would be seen from this new section of path since the pond is mostly obscured by brush.
Question. Joe.
Yeah, I think Dorothy might have proposed this a long time ago, right? Okay. Yeah, that's what I thought. I know she was very passionate about it. I mean, it's hard for me to, I guess, accept it without Dave being here to introduce it and talk through it. But, I mean, I walk around there every day. I got a puppy. And I can pretty easily kind of get around. I know crossing, you have to cross Seminole twice if you're going around the marsh. And I know that there have been residents who have written to me about, feeling somewhat unsafe crossing one of those intersections. And I have brought that to, the attention of city staff as well. So, I mean, I can see the benefit of doing it or not doing it. I really don't have an opinion on whether or not we should get rid of this, but I know the council has approved this in the CIP in the past, and I'm wondering, it would be good to get more history behind why they approved it and then why it would need to necessarily be removed. And it's 5 years out from now, so that's a long time.
I remember when we installed the bike lane on the east side, we talked about that, and we decided why in the east instead of the west, because the west they have wetland, and it's going to be a lot more costly to do that on that side. So we have a very long discussion when we build the bike path on the east side. So, you know what I mean? So, and I think, yeah, it was Dorothy, she put this in the CIP way back, but, so we had to understand that it's very costly to do that because of the wetland.
So people have their hands up, but a follow-up question to that would be, why wasn't that ever removed before now?
Because I think it was far away, you know what I mean?
Okay, so we're getting closer to it.
Jay.
So the text that we were given here for why this is in the capital improvement plan indicates that this is the Fitchburg portion of this is $250,000. Apparently, $250,000 would be coming from the city of Madison, and $500,000 would be coming from Dane County Parks. So I guess before I would want to just cut this out, I'd want to find out if Dane County and Madison are still interested in this project, because it seems like this is a partnership type project. The text states that residents from both Fitchburg and Madison neighborhoods near Dunn's Marsh have been working with the cities of Fitchburg and Madison as well as Dane County to discuss and request completion of the recreational circuit around Dunn's Marsh. So if there's residents involved in this, I mean, I don't think it makes much sense to just cut this project out without having some sort of outreach to find out. I mean, if Dane County and Madison are planning on having this done, then let's do it. But this, again, as was mentioned by Joe, by the mayor, this is not until 2028. So, if Dave doesn't like it still next year, he can always put in something.
I have an update, okay? When Dane County, because Dorothy sent me a text because she was very upset. When Dane County went through the CIP, they dropped this project. They removed it from the CIP. So this will happen in June 29. So
Can I also clarify real quick? So the numbers that you were talking about, Alder Allen, was actually, the amounts are half of what you're saying. So 250,000 is the total project. And then if you look at the funding sources on the CIP page, 125,000 was supposed to come from grants, of which we have not secured, 62,500 from the city of Madison or Dane County, of which has not been secured, and then potentially park fees for the other 62.5. But that the eligibility of park fees for this project hasn't been determined at this point.
Gabriela and then Jim. Gabriela.
The only reason I understand that this is now in the front 5 years of the plan, which means it's more in the realistic projections. And it sounds like we've not been taking action on this for probably good reasons. I would see that there's definitely justification to push this back, like maybe push it back to 2033. But I dislike removing the project completely because I think that to a certain extent eliminates the knowledge of that project. Obviously, it exists in the old CIPs, but I guess my preference would be to push it back into the 2030s and just have it there as a placeholder. You know, we might never do anything with it, but just to have it there, have that information there, I think it has value. So I won't support this as is. I would support pushing it back into more into the future, but yeah, thanks.
Jim.
Yeah, along the lines of what Gabriella was saying, Misty, is there any harm to just pushing it back?
Yeah, Gabrielle had it exactly right. So now in year 5, it's part of that projects that have been vetted. So to an extent, you're making at least direction to staff that they should be working on this. So if that's not something that you really want staff to devote time to at this point, and you're open to it just being a placeholder project, then yeah, I would say moving it back at least so it's not in the front 5 would be reasonable.
Jay.
I will move to amend this to move the funding to 2029.
Second.
Any discussion, comment? No? Okay. We should do roll call.
We're just voting on the amendment currently.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mayor. So this is the amendment to move the funding to 2029.
Yes.
Alder Allen.
Aye.
Alder Gerhart.
Aye.
Alder Herbst is absent. Alder Jetzer.
Aye.
Alder Maldonado.
Aye.
Alder Strassman is absent. Alder Udell.
Aye.
Alder Wheeler.
Aye.
Motion carried to amend.
So now we need to. So now we need to vote in the amendment amended.
Point of clarification, would we be voting nay to get rid of it, or would we be voting aye to?
It's now been amended to move the funding to 2029.
Yeah.
That's the.
Yeah.
A yes vote would move the funding to 2029. Yep.
Okay, so.
Thank you for asking, no.
Roll call again.
Thank you, Mayor. Alder Allen.
Aye.
Alder Gerhart.
Aye.
Alder Herbst is absent. Alder Jetzer.
Aye.
Alder Maldonado.
Aye.
Alder Strassman is absent. Alder Udell.
Aye.
Alder Wheeler.
Aye.
Motion carried.
Okay, thank you. So now, so we need a motion to adopt the 2024-20
Well, that motion should already be on the floor.
as amended.
Yes.
As amended. Okay. I need a motion.
Well, no, we just amended it.
But now
We don't need another motion. The motion should already be out
Yes,
there.
we-
Otherwise, we amended nothing.
I think you mean for the CIP resolution
the CIP
itself.
Yeah,
Did we do a motion?
That motion should have been done already. It was so long ago that I don't remember. But we do have our city clerk here.
Okay, I am following the direction, and here is, the resolution was to approve
Yep. So
the original, and then we
Then
went
we
to the
amended it.
amendment.
And so we
now,
don't need another motion, we just need to vote.
We're voting on the CIP as a whole.
We're
Yeah,
voting
so-
on the CIP as amended.
so this is international law.
Yep. So now you need to approve adopting Resolution R 12923
Second time.
as amended.
Okay, so Can you move a motion, please?
We don't need a motion.
Okay.
It's already on the floor. We just need to vote.
Okay, so we're going to vote. A roll call, please.
Thank you, Mayor. Alder Allen.
Aye.
Alder Gerhart.
Aye.
Alder Herbst is absent. Alder Jetzer.
Aye.
Alder Maldonado.
Aye.
Alder Strassman is absent. Alder Udell.
Aye.
Alder Wheeler.
Aye.
Motion carried.
Okay, so I'm going to make it brief. Any comment, question?
Nothing.
Okay. As I mentioned before, I have been meeting with several of the mayors from other municipalities. I continue to do that. And then I assisted several activities representing the city. So like a couple of, ribbon cutting for the memory care in lot 53 and 54. We also, Senator Melissa Agar came on June 30 to do a tour of the city. And it was great. Mike Zimmerman and the city administration chat, we went through different places in the city, showed her about how the city is growing, the development, all of that. Then I assisted the White Party and the ribbon cutting for the Mackenzie Regional Workforce Center. It was great. It was a great event. Then I also did a couple of tours to several not-for-profit organizations here in the city of Fitchburg. One of them is the Bright Patch Youth Services. We went there last week with the Verona, some of the Verona School District board members and the president of the board to tour the facility, and it was great. It's a great facility that is now in the city of Fitchburg, providing great safe services for the youth. And also, they mentioned in that tour that they have a very good relation with the Fitchburg the police department. So it's great that, And also last Saturday I went to the food pantry here in the town of Verona. It was an eye-opener for me because the services have increased substantially. So far this year they have provided services for 35,000 people compared to last year it was 15. And from that 35,000, 10,000 people are from the city of Fitchburg. So this is another organization that the city provides funds through the Healthy Neighborhood Grant Program. So they are doing a great job serving some of the people in our city. So I would recommend you, if you can do that, go and do a tour, talk to the people there. And the other thing that's great about this organization that they don't have any paid employee. All the money goes to the mission of the organization. Everyone is a volunteer. So they're always looking for volunteers. So if we have people watching here and you have some free time, please reach out to the people because they are looking for more volunteers. And you can talk to Marcia Casieta. She's the executive director for the Budget Priority Needs Network. So also, what else? There's going to be an activity on July 29th organized by the Bright Patch Youth Services. It's going to be Saturday, July 29th from 12 to 4 o'clock. This is in 2720 Rimrock Road. So it's a live music, free food, and art fair. So if you are there, you can assist to that. So what else? That's it. Any question for me? Okay, so now we move to, the other thing is the budget process has started, so the city staff is working on that, so. So now we're going to the ALDE report. We are going to start with District 4.
I went to the construction site for Lacey Road just to see the progress, and there's a lot of work that still needs to be done. And I sent Tim an email because I was talking to someone from Parisi Construction and asked the question of, will this be done by August, the end of August? And really didn't get a straight answer except that some things have been delayed because of MG&E trying to get a hold of them and do what they need to do before Parisi can do what they need to do. So I sent him an email if we can just get an update for when that is going to be completed or estimated to be completed. That's it.
Randy?
Last week, Thursday, I believe, I attended the community meeting held at the Black Hawk Church, and that Chief Morales sponsored, and Lieutenant Ned, you were there, thank you, and McCarthy, appreciate your time. It was it was, say, well attended, but it's always great to attend the meetings and to see new faces. But it was very worthwhile. I also want to give a big shout out to EMS. I had a family member, my father's wife was at the house, and she fell, and it was a pretty well, anyway, it was an injury that she ended up in the hospital. But I want to give a shout out to the EMS. They did a wonderful job, and I think it was I want to say Nicole and Carlos, and I would like to give them a big thank you. So that's all I have.
Okay, thank you, Randy. Jay, District 3. Yeah.
Well, you caught me off guard. We had an update from Public Works about Sain Road, and they are still claiming that it will be done by the end of August, and then we'll move up. Then we'll move up to Sain and Sherrill. So you're still not. That intersection is also going to be closed. So even though Sain and Lacey is open, we're still going to have the thing up there. And I believe the current schedule is that that's going to go until November. So, but I did hear from a couple of residents that they were happy to see some movement, finally, at Sain and Lacey. The only other thing I had was that I got a number of complaints from people who live on Lacey Road about the Festival of Speed. They were complaining about the noise from the band being too loud and the noise from the fireworks. So I had not heard those complaints previously, so I don't know if they did something different, if the band was using a different kind of sound system. I don't know, but there were a number of complaints about that. And that's all I have.
You want to mention something, Jerry?
I live on Lacey right here, and I don't think it's any different than the...
I can't hear anything.
Oh, microphone.
Sorry. I'm just going to say that I live on Lacey, and it's been the same for the last 3 years. Like, I didn't notice anything.
Well, I mean, I got more than one call, so... I got more than one call and an email, so... It was bothering some people.
Yeah. Welcome to Fitchburg. Okay, District, you're done, District 2?
I attended the opening of the courtyard at Fitchburg, the memory care facility that's right on McKee Farms Park on Wilshire Drive. They opened that. The assisted living facility will open later this year, but it's a really nice facility, really beautifully done. So if anyone's looking for memory care for one of their family members, I know they have spots open, so take a look. And then second thing, I just wanted to reiterate that the sustainability plan survey is available online, really easy to find. If you, on Fitchburg's website, there's a news flash right at the bottom about the sustainability plan. And then also please consider applying for the planning team. The application is on the website as well. Thanks.
Oh, I forgot to mention this. Okay, Bill?
Yeah, so I attended some fun events, including the Fitchburg Festival of Speed. And Jay, I can tell you that the band was positioned at the southwest corner there, or I guess the northeast corner of whatever was that, Research Park and Cheryl. So on the southwest corner of the field there, and it was aimed out towards Lacey Road. I don't know whether that is different from previous years. It might make more sense to aim them towards, Eagle School, Woods Hollow, that area, to direct the noise away from Lacey Road residents. I did have a chat with Ryan Griesmeyer from Race Day Events, who essentially put that event on. So I will pass along your comments, or if you want to email me, I can pass them on to him or introduce you to him. Also, there was the Boys and Girls Club Move and Groove Ride in McKee Farms Park. I attended that as well, and it was a 25 or 50 mile bike ride, or a 2 mile walk, 5 mile run, 5K run maybe, followed by a party in the park prior to the ribbon cutting at the McKenzie Center and the White Party. And the last one that I attended was the concert at McKee, the People Brothers Band, which was well attended, and food carts were there. The weather was nice, and the music was good. That's subjective, but I thought so. And that's it for me.
Thank you, Bill. Joe?
There's a Parks Alive event in Allied Park. I know it's right across the border. It's August 7th at 5 to 8. There was supposed to be one yesterday, but it got canceled because of the air quality. And I know I'll get yelled at by Valerie, but Luna's Block Party is August 26th, 1 to 9 p.m., 2010 Red Arrow Trail.
Thank you. So before we adjourn, I forgot to mention that we received a proclamation for our 40 years anniversary from our senator, state senator Melissa Agar, and our representative Jimmy Anderson. So thank you very much. Okay, so to both of them, we really like this proclamation. Thank you. So now, announcement, next Common Council meeting will be August 8th, and our next committee of the whole meeting is going to be tomorrow, and then August 23rd for the August one. So I need a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor to adjourn, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We are adjourning at, I don't know what time it is, 10:40. Thank you very much.